Testosterone levels drop as you get older.
Where did that come from?
That's what causes the hair to grow out of your nose.
Does it?
And ears, and your eyebrows get more bushy. It's your testosterone levels as you get older reduce.
So what do? You just trim it?
Well, you can get yokes that can do that for you, yeah.
What do you mean yokes?
Like buzzers, things you stick in your ears. I don't have.
No, I have
yet.
One of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have that problem.
But they're not much good, in all fairness.
No. Well, anyway, that's the reason. So.
Right.
Every day's a learning day, Lee.
I'm thinking about it.
Enjoy the last throws of July, and we'll see you in August.
See you tomorrow.
All
August,
right,
1st
bye.
of August. Good luck to you. Good luck.
All right, take care of yourself. 9 till noon show coming up after the news headlines now, and it's over to Donna Marie Doherty.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. Parents of the Twin Towns area have been warned of an apparent incident involving 2 children being beckoned into a car. The Finn Valley Centre shared a post about telling what is believed to be 3 men engaging with children in the car park. They say CCTV has been handed in to Gardaí. In a statement, Gardaí say while they responded to reports of a suspicious approach, no offences were disclosed. Current and planned industrial action by pilots at Emerald Airlines have been suspended. The airline operates a Dublin-Donegal route, often used for those travelling to avail of cancer treatment plans. There are growing fears among patients with Donegal cancer flights and services regarding flight availability. However, Forza Trade Union made the announcement as talks are to get underway this morning in a bid to resolve the dispute covering pilots' terms and conditions of employment. Detectives in the Strand Road area are investigating following 2 reports of burglaries at residential properties. It's in the Branch Road area of Derry from Saturday evening last. Cleona O'Dwyer has more.
In a statement, the PSNI says a report was made on Saturday evening between 6:30 and 7 o'clock. Entry had been gained to the first home and a number of items and a sum of cash were taken. A second report was made, also in the Branch Road area, of entry being gained to a home. However, at this time, it's believed nothing has been stolen. Police say they're keen to speak to a man who may have been in the vicinity at this time. He's described as being aged in his 30s, approximately 5'7" to 5'10" tall and of stocky build. He was wearing a checkered flat cap, a sports-style top and dark-coloured shorts with 3 stripes down the side. They're also appealing to anyone who believes they have CCTV or other video footage or relevant information to contact police on 101.
Meanwhile, investigations are ongoing into the assault of a young woman in Strabane on Saturday night last. It happened in Devlin's bar at approximately 10 to 12. Police are appealing to those who were in the bar and witnessed the incident to make contact. It'll be at least a year before the next general election. The Taoiseach has dismissed speculation of a trip to the polls either late this year or early 2024. Leo Varadkar says the next election in the country will be the local and Europeans next June, saying a general election won't happen until after that. Looking now to the weather forecast, today will be mostly cloudy, mixed with occasional outbreaks of showery rain turning heavy or possibly thundery with some spots later. A breezy day with moderate to fresh westerly winds, with stronger winds in the earlier part of the day. That's with highs of 17 to 19 degrees. That's all for now. I'll be back with the next news update at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
Are you suffering from dodgy internet connection? Symptoms include endless loading, embarrassing freeze face. Luckily, there's a cure. 3 Home Broadband in Ireland's fastest and most consistent 5G network. Get it free for the first 3 months and for only €39 per month after that. Plus, no setup costs. You don't want to miss this. Visit in store or at 3.ie. 24-month minimum term. Subject to location and availability. Speeds may vary. Based on analysis by Ookla Speed Test Intelligence data Q3 to Q4 2022.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. And now it's time for the talk of the Northwest, the 9 to noon show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello, good morning. 4 minutes past 9. It's Monday, the 31st of July 2023, the last month of July. Tomorrow, as I said to Lee there, then we are into August. How are you doing? How are you keeping? I hope you're very well. How was your weekend? Let us know. Did anything interesting happen? Anything you wish to pass on? The lines are open for you, as you know, I think. You can text or WhatsApp us right now on 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000. If you're listening outside the Republic, 00353 86 60 25,000. If you want to call us, 07491 25,000. Caroline and Neve taking your calls there, 00353 7491 25,000. Again, if you happen to be listening from outside the Republic, your email's always welcome into us as well. Comments, comments at highlandradio.com. Right, let's see what's making the front of inside of the papers. National papers a bit thin on news today. Maybe we are in the so-called silly season. But anyway, let's start with the locals. The Derry People Donegal News, a charity providing subsidised flights for Donegal cancer patients to Dublin for treatment, has called on the government to step in to avert a planned 24-hour stoppage this week, which will leave hundreds in limbo. Pilots at Aer Lingus' regional operator, Emerald Airlines, plan to halt work for one day ahead of this August bank holiday weekend in a move their union says could disrupt flights. Emerald Airlines operates regional flights, including the Dublin to Donegal service. Action commenced in June, which escalated last week and could see a 24-hour stoppage by pilots take place this bank holiday weekend. On to the Derry News. Does this surprise you? The Derry City and Strabane District Council area has the highest level of antidepressant prescribing in the north. 35,434 people here received antidepressants in 2022-23. 23.4% of the entire population. This is compared to 19.9% of the population overall. The figure increased from 22.5% in the previous reporting period. The statistics were revealed in the Family Practitioner Service General Pharmaceutical Services Annual Statistics 22-23 report published in June by the HSC's Business Service Organisation. You can read more in full inside today's Derry News. On to the Irish Times now, their front page, or part of it. Appointees to a new managerial tier in the HSC, so this is an additional managerial tier, could earn more than $250,000 a year, significantly more than hospital managers currently earn under a plan developed by Minister for Health Stephen Donnelly. Under the new plan, those heading up the new 6 HSE health regions being rolled out under Sláintecare will be paid up to €257,000 each. The government believes the higher salaries are needed to retain and attract top-class healthcare managers, to retain them, with salaries aligned to the pay scale in the new consultant contract signed off last year. So he, the health minister, to hold on to the talent that's here already running the health service, believes that those positions would need to offer $257,000 for fear they could go elsewhere, I presume. The salaries are significantly higher than those paid to existing 6 hospital group managers and 9 community health care organisation chief officers, who are being paid €110,000 to €175,000 annually already. So the heads of the 6 hospital groups at the moment and the community healthcare organisation chief officers are earning between $110,000 and $175,000, and there's going to be a new level of management above them, it seems, each earning €257,000 each, all for the health service that's currently being provided there. On to the Irish Independent now, and consumers have been warned to brace for another raft of price hikes despite an easing in the rate of inflation. Among the goods and services set to rise in price are the cost of petrol and diesel, alcohol, streaming services and transport services. It comes at a time when domestic gas and electricity prices remain at record highs, with only a small reduction in prices expected over the coming months. The continued price surge is despite the latest inflation figures from the Central Statistics Office showing consumer prices rose at a rate of 6.1% in June, down from 9.2% in October. Experts said this means the rate of increase in prices has eased, but they're still rising, just not as fast as they were. But they're not coming down, so these are lower price increases on top of the already big price increases. It's not like we revert back to 0.0 and then start with a 6% increase. The 6% on top of last year's 9%. Chair of the Consumer Association, Michael Kilcoyne, said the ongoing squeeze on disposable income means the government will have to announce a large programme of financial assistance for consumers in the budget. But the oxymoron there for me is that the reason we're seeing increased prices, increased interest rates, is to stop us spending, to make us be under pressure to drive down inflation. So it doesn't make a lot of sense, the process that we use. But anyway, I've talked about that before. Still scratching my head. The Irish Daily Mail this morning tells us that Union Forza has held a meeting of their members from libraries across the country for the first time over fears anti-LGBT disturbances will expand to more areas. A library in Cork was forced to close on Saturday after a banner was mounted by protesters across the entrance without permission, the latest in a series of protests over LGBT reading material. Cork City Library on Grand Parade said the decision to close was taken in the interests of the safety and well-being of the public and library staff. Head of Local Services at Forza, Richie Carruthers, said they called the meeting at short notice this week because of the ongoing threat posed by far-right agitators and actions or actors in libraries. Mr. Carruthers told the Irish Daily Mail people are anxious and they want to feel safe in their workplace and they want their employees to step up to the plate. Now, the protest seems to be about a particular book which the protesters were reading out to people who didn't want it read out to them. I thought that was a wee bit ironic, but anyway, it's about one particular book in a library. OK, on to the Irish Daily Star this morning. As you heard there, Donna Marie mentioned in the news, Taoiseach Leo Varadkar has insisted that he'll not call an early election and that he will continue to lead Fine Gael. This despite proposed motions at a recent Young Fine Gael summer school meeting calling for him to step down if the party lost seats in the local or general elections. It's understood one branch of the youth group suggested debating motions calling for the party leader to resign after the next local elections if Fine Gael loses more than 10% of seats won in 2019, though that doesn't make sense because the general election follows the local elections really quite smartly. Another proposed motion suggested YFG should call for the party leader to resign after the next election if Fine Gael does not win 10 additional seats. A spokesperson for the Taoiseach said these motions were not debated. I'm not really surprised. They don't make a great deal of sense, but he's going nowhere and we're not going to have an early election, apparently. The Sun tells us that intense private security briefings have been given to the country's TDs by Gardaí in recent months. The move came after a spate of death threats as well as verbal and online abuse against the politicians and their families. Louth TD Fergus O'Dowd confirmed that he and his staff were advised about security at their homes and offices as some Oireachtas members have been targeted by abusive members of the public. It's understood some TDs have received more than 100 threatening calls a day and their staff and relatives are fearful for their safety. Gardaí have assigned a sergeant in each constituency to liaise with TDs and senators on personal security. I'm not sure what, if any, meetings have taken place in this part of the world, but that was down in Louth. And finally, we'll go to the back page. James McCarthy lifted the All-Ireland at Croke Park and then hit out at the disgraceful shots aimed at boss Dessie Farrell. This is the Mirror. McCarthy, Michael Fitzmaurice and Stephen Cluxton claimed record 9th All-Ireland medals as they helped Dublin to glory. And McCarthy claimed it wouldn't be a bad way to wrap up the careers of some of Dublin's senior stars. What did you think of the game? It was close. I don't think it was a masterclass by either team as such. But Dublin won out in the end. I think Kerry will be ruining some refereeing decisions and maybe some missed chances as well. We'll ask Brendan Devaney his views on that when he's in with us after 11. But what did you think? 086 60 25,000. That's the WhatsApp and text number for any of your comments on any of the stories that you've heard about there. Or you can give us a call right now on 07491 25,000.
The newspapers are courtesy of Kelly Centra Mountaintop Letterkenny, the C-Store National Large Forecourt of the Year for 2022.
Hi, it's Claire here from Claire Clothing. Our summer sale has started. I have loads of discounts of dresses, tops, trousers, all of the summer stock. So we'll see you at our summer sale in Claire Clothing, Main Street, Letterkenny.
Most people say that Donegal is the coolest place on the planet, but up here we know that sometimes it can be the coldest. Charles Brunner & Sons Ballybuffet is the one-stop shop for all your heating needs. We have a huge range of multi-fuel and wood pellet stoves and ranges, spare parts for all major stove and range brands, plumbing and bathroom ware, all at exceptional prices. So visit our showrooms where our friendly and experienced team will be ready to help you. Charles Brunner & Sons Ballybuffet and thestovestore.ie, where you can always do a good deal better.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at
Well, the time is 14 minutes past 9. We had Reverend Paul on Friday, who was expressing his views about, I suppose, procreation and the future of society and the spread of STIs and what have you. This caller says, listening to your speaker on Friday, I found it difficult to get my head around the statement that God created one man and one woman. And this is where the human race came from. How can two people create so many different races? Just asking the question. Well, that's the belief system of one church. There's over 4,000 churches. And I suppose to some extent it depends on where you're born and to who you're born as to which God or religion you follow. But that's his. And that was his views. Right, I have plenty more comments to catch up on too from the weekend as well. Right, an IFA delegation led by Donegal IFA Chair Joe Sweeney recently met with senior officials from Donegal County Council to discuss farmer concerns in relation to the Tenty roadway and Barnesmore Gap Greenway projects. Michael Chance is National Environment Committee, or is on it with the IFA in Donegal. Good morning to you, Michael. Thanks for taking the call.
Good morning, Greg.
All right, so what concerns had farmers had that were related to the council then, I wonder?
Well, obviously, having a road through your land is a major intrusion. But we accept that this is going to happen, and that's why we have the CPO system. Our main concern at the minute is the IFA. TII, Transport Infrastructure Ireland road agreement has lapsed, and we want that up and running again so that farmers have protection and support and guarantees when the road, when the project comes up.
And what kind of guarantees are you looking for? Because I think it's about an agreement which is to ensure landowners, farmers are treated fairly. So what does that look like in an ideal world?
There's a system there, a protocol of how it's dealt with. And we met with the council engineers, and they equally would prefer to have that in place because it gives everyone everyone knows where they stand. There's also involved in it a goodwill payment for if you agree to go into negotiations with the council, and that's important.
And in terms of what value is put on this land, is that an issue as well that needs to be discussed, or has that already been resolved, or is that a fait accompli? Does the government set that, or not the government, but the TEI and the process?
Oh no, it's very much up for negotiation, and there's the basic price of the land. There's the if your farm is cut in two. You can claim for severance. There's the issue of if you're a livestock farmer, whether you get underpasses or even on a major road, an overpass, which it's unlikely on this scheme, but there's all sorts of if you profitability, of course, is the thing, because a farmer is basically losing his the land which he needs to earn his living. Mm-hmm. So that's involved too. There's all sorts of headings you can negotiate under.
Yes, and of course, whilst this has come up now, Michael, as part of this process, this is not unusual. This is not a Donegal issue. This happens presumably with any major development that involves, farmland or crossing farmland or splitting it. It's happens all over the place.
Very much so. The difference basically is with the lapse of the agreement. Most of the major projects, motorways, etc., were delivered down the country under this agreement, and that didn't happen in Donegal, and so that's why we want the agreement back in place.
Well, it's an improved agreement, really, which you're calling for, isn't it?
Oh, of course we will. We'll obviously look to update it because that agreement was made The basic agreement was made many years ago.
Is the Barnesmore Gap Greenway project any less or simple or more complicated? Because that's early stage of exploration at this point, I suppose.
It's not as intrusive a project, but it's very much embedded, as you would say, in the farmland, in the countryside, and on the Ballybuffet side, there is quite a lot of state-owned land, forestry, etc. And the policy is that they use that as much as possible. But there's been quite a lot of issues down the country with regard to the same thing again, dividing farmland and making it more difficult to operate and so on.
And I presume with a greenway, because of the type of traffic that's on it, foot traffic, cycling traffic and what have you too, in terms of, land being protected or liability and things like that, that also has to be worked through, I presume.
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, the promoter of the greenway obviously has to be responsible for indemnifying the landowner against any liability.
Okay, and the offer is out there. I think most farmers, landowners are already sort of engaging with the council through their third-party valuer or whatever you might call it. But you're saying that the IFA, for anyone that is affected by this that hasn't entered that process, the IFA are offering support through the RFO office.
That's correct, yeah. Most farmers have an agronomist appointed. And, I mean, there's a large number of people involved. You're talking 63 kilometres of road, approximately 200 farmers. There are a lot of other landowners, people who have property owners involved.
Yes, I get you.
People having their homes demolished and so on.
Mm-hmm. All right, Michael, thank you for your time this morning. That's Michael Chance, National Environment Committee with the IFA Donegal. Right, we were talking various issues on Friday. Friday's such a busy morning, though, that we don't always get to all of the comments. And there's a mixture here, some talking about rail, some talking about defective concrete and so on. So I'll go through some of them for you right now. Hi, Greg. My wife and I are pensioners living in a mica house. We haven't even been accepted onto stage 1 yet. And even though the application included the engineer report, as yet, not even a glimmer of hope of reimbursement of the engineer's fees. We just feel like we're being shafted and taken for mugs. I'm sorry you feel like that. All the talk about the rail from Letterkenny to Strabane and Derry and further down south of the county to Sligo. Not one person mentioning the west of the county, left behind again with the worst infrastructure and least investment in the whole country. I can understand how you might feel like that. I think that your show underlines, Greg, is the serious lack of transparency with the people that it claims to govern. This can be seen in many local organisations too. All I can say is I hope Sinn Féin can do better. Greg, the best thing to happen in the next general election is to wipe out the three main parties, get new blood in. They are in far too long, believes one listener. With the weather we're getting here in Donegal, we should be investing in boats rather than trains. Okay, indeed. And we had this yellow weather warning in place for Saturday and lots of events were organised and I'm sure some areas of the northwest did experience heavy rain, but there is a sense that maybe Met Éireann were covering themselves a little bit off the back of the floods that we saw the previous weekend in the east of the county. Did the weather, the yellow weather warning, did the rain really transpire and did it have any effect on anything that you were organising yesterday? Where I was anyway, bucketed down most of the day. Saturday, I saw one shower. But that being said, I'm not going to lie, I did adjust my plans for Saturday. There was stuff I was going to do and I thought it was going to be raining all day and I just didn't do it. More the fool me. Maybe it suited me, you know what I'm saying. Random request here. Actually, that's probably sorted at this stage. We'll chase that one up in case that's been fixed there. Greg, the My Mind cancelling session stopped in March and nobody was told. They only recently started up again when a homeowner alerted us. it had stopped, and we got onto the department. It's only reinstated until the end of 23, and up to 75 people can get 6 online sessions each. That's what I've been told. I find it strange that local organisations established and already providing this service haven't been given the funding for this. Some councillors have been providing sessions voluntarily locally. That's kind of why I was interested in how much was being given to my mind and how many classes how many sessions could be provided through that. I thought that would have been important information, but it just wasn't available. I contacted Donegal County Council 4 times between this and last week, saying that I had a house to rent to the council, as I heard on your show last week that they were looking for houses for thousands of people. One person told me to go online and fill in a form. Another person then told me that form is no longer valid. Twice they said that someone would ring me to discuss it further, but nobody's gotten back to me at all. They will have great difficulty housing thousands of people when they're not making it easy for people who have houses to give. Right, I'll come back to more of your comments as we get on. Sean McBride from Greencastle, former judge. Hi, Sean. Good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Right, Sean, the line is not fantastic, but you were very pleased with Dublin's victory yesterday.
I was, Greg, because I felt, well, first of all, I felt they were the better football team. You know, they were more skillful than Kerry, and they were more up for it and hungry for it as well. And I don't think we give them enough credit when they withstood the Kerry renaissance in the second half, when Kerry scored 3 points in a row. One of them was a spectacular effort from David Clifford's older brother, the other Clifford, Poddy. Fantastic point. But Dublin then came back like a ram at them. They just absolutely blew them apart. I thought Brian Hurd in midfield had a fantastic game until he went off injured. His work rate was second to none. And Fenton, the best midfielder in the country, he conducted the orchestra, driving through the middle and setting up the passes and all of that. And I thought Paul Mannion was outstanding with his 5 points. I just felt it was Dublin's day. Now, I would have a soft spot for Dublin because I spent, when I left St. Columns, I spent from 69 to 75 up in Dublin, captained UCD track and field team. I ran for Dublin cross country before Donegal woke up and selected me. And then I ran for Donegal after that. But, I think that that Dublin team are hugely underestimated. I think a very good side. Also, I felt that Kerry were a little bit rough and a bit over the top against Derry in the semi-final. So I knew that Dublin weren't going to lie down to those kind of tactics, you know?
Yeah, and indeed they roughed up some Kerry players themselves and got away with it too. You know, there was a couple of instances, one in particular, that effectively went unpunished. If it was punished like it perhaps should have been, it could have been a very different game.
Well, you're correct there. There was one or two incidents off the ball, but I think that applied to both teams. They were both at it. There was a pair of them in it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
From my former days on the bench, I used to say if there was a scrap and there was one given as good as the other, there's a pair of you, you know? That was my view of it. I think it was, but maybe too, a lot of it was sort of, I know there was one or two incidents that were totally unacceptable, but in the main it was sort of rough stuff, but they sort of drew the line, you know, they concentrated on the ball as well. I think it was actually a very good game. No, it wasn't for the purists. You never get that in an All-Ireland final, because what happens in finals in all sports, Greg, is, as I know, people make mistakes. You know, the pressure is on. You're only on the ball for a minute or two, and you have to let go of it, or else you'll be out over the sideline. You understand?
Yeah, another interesting...
carry on.
I was going to say, another interesting aspect of yesterday's game, I thought, off the pitch as such, was that it was broadcast across Britain on BBC Two. I wonder what those new to the game... I mean, it was broadcast in Britain on Sky previously, but this was free to air. I wonder what... the general British public who tuned in thought of it. More rough and tumble than you might see in the Premiership, for an example.
Well, yes, but I think a refreshing change. Fellas get up, dust themselves down. As I say, when I was a boarder in St. Columns, they weren't Mammy's Derry City Day boys, you know?
Yeah, I get you.
They needed a pat in the head. You know, they would be like us boarders, boys from the hill or the country. I think the spirit of the GA is if you get it done, you get up and get on with it. You don't roll around there earning an Oscar in Hollywood, you know.
So overall, you'd say not for the purists, but a good game, and you're satisfied with the outcome, Sean. Would that be a fair assessment?
That is a fair assessment. Now, I would have friends down in the kingdom too, and I love the Kerry people. They're the nicest, modest people you could meet. And no doubt Kerry will come back, make no doubt about that. Kerry will be back next year with a vengeance. I'm not under any illusions about that. They're a proud football county. But I just felt in the balance of the play yesterday, I felt Dublin deserved their win, you know, and fair play to them. It also keeps the game alive. But remember, in Dublin, there's an awful lot of competition in sport. You have rugby, which is very strong and a good game it is. You have soccer, of course, coming strong, and there are girls on today. And you have a lot of things to compete with in Dublin, you know, so it's important that the GA are strong in our capital city.
All right, great stuff. Thanks for your comments, Sean. Take care of yourself. Do you agree, disagree? 086 60 25,000 or call us on 074 91 25,000. Good morning, Greg. Leo is looking again to give more of our money to electricity suppliers. What happened to taxing their profits? How long have we been waiting now? This is a scandal. Our money should not be paid to these cowboys. This has to stop now. What they're referencing there is the kite flying that happened on Friday, suggesting that there'll be more energy supports for people. But I made a similar point to the caller there, but in a different way. We're supposed to be getting them to pass on the savings they're making because wholesale electricity prices are down. They haven't passed that on to us at all. So instead of punishing them or enforcing them or whatever it might take to make that happen, we're actually going to give them more taxpayers' money. Yes, it will have the effect of It'll have the effect of saving some people from going into arrears, but it's just more taxpayers' money going to the electricity companies. A caller said, should we expect to see the rail link before the bridge over the Swilly promised 30 years ago? If you see either, let me know. Does anyone have any issues with the wrap-up scribbly in Letterkenny? It's far too high, the ramp, I take it. I've busted 2 shocks on it. That's €340 amount. Am I the only one? Talk to me about this ramp-up scribblies in Letterkenny, they believe. Scribly. Well, why is it written down as scribbly? Is that how it's spelled? I don't know how you get scribly out of 2 B's. Oh, right, scribly. That's the local way of saying it. Let me know, is there a problem with the scribly ramp? Right, as it relates to the calls on the housing minister to visit the Northwest to sell his scheme, a caller says the minister is scared to tell people that it's not a 100% scheme. No credit to him or his party or Fine Gael either, who should be making him accountable, responsible and transparent. I feel the Minister of Housing is afraid to come to Donegal, afraid to meet the strong people here in Inishowen. It's strange that he hasn't appeared once. For goodness sake, these people are waiting years and he cannot even have the manners to face them. Thank you. Back to the bridge over the Swilly. Get a painted yellow box at Mountain Top so the residents of Calhaim and further over are not sitting at a blocked roundabout for anything up to 12 minutes on a morning. That would be a nightmare. Right, back with our next guest after these.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
Brian McCormick Sports and Leisure, Main Street, Letterkenny. Women's clothing in new styles and colours from Adidas and Under Armour. Own the Run range or try the training essentials. Jackets, crew sweats with matching tees, shorts and tights. Match it up with a pair of On trainers. New range just arrived. Brian McCormick Sports and Leisure. Click on bmcsports.ie and get your free delivery.
Waterworld Bundoran is back and it's open every day for summer 2023. Experience the 3-lane multi-slide, the Whizzer, the Wave Pool and Rapids, the Twister, Tornado and Gravity Speed Slides, the Pirates Galleon Ship, as well as our brand new gift shop. Booking essential. Get your tickets now at waterworldbundoran.com/booking and find us on Facebook and Instagram.
Because that's when we flash the cash to get you in the mood for the big bucks. It's all coming soon, only on Highland Radio.
Highland Radio.
Now, obviously, just before we welcome our next guest onto the show, there are lots of questions as it relates to the enhanced effective concrete block scheme. And we continue to try and get a word with Minister O'Brien on that issue, of course, just to answer a few questions that people might have, to sort of ask how it will work for people and how it might develop into the future. So we said, would it be available at any point this week, even a pre-record? It doesn't really matter. I don't mind whenever we do it. But unfortunately, this week is a no-go either. So I just want you to know that we did try and we are trying. Okay, now we are joined by Deputy Mark McSharry. Good morning, Deputy. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Right now, you've been talking about new accommodation that has been provided for those fleeing, I believe it's for Ukrainians, those fleeing the war in their country. And you say, look, that's the right thing to do. We should be doing that. But you have pointed out that we should also be doing that for other people as well. Is that a fair synopsis? And maybe you want to sort of expand on your view there, Mark?
Yeah, definitely. It is a fair synopsis. I mean, unfortunately, the way the world is now, I have to preface these remarks by, again, saying I'm not a racist, I'm not a zealot, I'm not an NFO. We're a welcoming, compassionate nation who want to do all we can for others, and we always have done. But there is a problem at the moment where we are risking that reputation because of the approach our government and in the European context has been taken to the immigration crisis, where I believe that we're displaying and demonstrating a willingness, a speed, and a blank check approach that's not reciprocated when it comes to looking after our own. And so what emerged last week that had me in the media nationally was the fact that 22 new modular homes were being made available in Doherty Park in Sligo for 22 families from the Ukraine, who are, of course, welcome. But when this scheme was announced last November, I asked the then Taoiseach, Micheál Martin, and broadly my words were, the 2,400 people on the housing list in Donegal, the 1,500 in Sligo, the 700 in Leitrim, have asked me to ask you, when is it proposed that the government will waive planning law to facilitate the development of modular housing for them?
And they are beautiful. They are beautiful developments. Sorry, the answer you got. Sorry, Mark.
Well, the answer I got was a dithering response, as is often the case from that particular gentleman. And this is the issue. And obviously, look, modular housing wouldn't suit everybody. But it wouldn't take any more than a month to survey all those people on the housing list nationally and say, look, who would be prepared to consider one of these? They have an 85-year lifespan, which is as good as any house, I would imagine. They're A-rated. Construction started in February, and we're not at the end of July, and there's 22 families in them.
Yeah. Now, of course, you've referenced the housing waiting list, but there's another issue, as you're more than aware, in the northwest and down the west coast and beyond, and that is defective concrete. And the families have for a long time saying, look, we are having to move out of these unsafe houses. They are literally unlivable, costing a fortune to run and very dangerous for those that live in them and their young people. And they've said, please, can you look at modular housing? We've had numerous councillors make that same call at various meetings, and it's been ruled out. It's not that it's being considered, it's been ruled out. And what happens is, Mark, and you've prefaced your comments, and no one would for a minute think that you're racist or anything like that there. But what happens is that normal people who aren't like that start feeling angry towards another group of people because they feel they're being forced to. They're sitting there going, right, okay, I know what the government for these people, what they're doing for these people is right, but it's making me feel angry because they won't do it for me. So in other words, this policy is causing bad feeling and division in society.
I agree with you 100%, and that's what started me on about this over a year ago. I mean, it's not an either-or situation. It's our own as well. And sadly, what we're doing is, in a European context, we're an outlier by a country mile in Western Europe in terms of what we're doing, the level of supports, for example, that we're providing. And I'll just give you an example of it. Okay, so we give €230 per week. We give a medical card, we give free post home, we give accommodation, and then they're charged a little for the food. In Brussels, they give €7.90. In Denmark, they give €60. In the Netherlands, they give about €50. In France, it's 47 if you're given accommodation. It's 100 if you're not. And in Bulgaria, you get a one-off payment of €160 when you're on your own. So with the level of supports that are provided here, which is 254 if you're a pensioner, 230, as I said, and the other supports, what we are de facto doing here is marketing Ireland as the prime location to come to. And that's unsustainable. Of course, we all want to do all we can to assist, but we have to be conscious of our own capacity. And the point you're making, where we have normal, welcoming, compassionate people, and they're looking at this. And yes, frustrations are growing, because we seem to be prepared to do the divil and all for everybody but ourselves. And I mean, the defective concrete block scheme, and I know we have an improved scheme now than what was originally mooted. I mean, the blank no for modular housing as a partial solution in the interim while people's houses, I mean, that's just madness. We need to be prepared to be open-minded. We need to be prepared to do what we can. And the other issue, of course, and it'll affect Donegal people as well as every around, is a student accommodation, where the government put out these ridiculous tenders. And Vulture Fund, based in the UK, reply to the tenders, win them, and seek to displace students then from the likes of the ATU, where in Sligo there are two complexes with 500 student basis. In abeyance at the moment.
But Mark,
some parents are.
Yeah, I was going to say, no, you've asked these questions. You've obviously explored it yourself. You have been in this government. Why then, and it's not an either or, why would it be then the policy that, in your view, the government is, I think you referred to it as signing a blank cheque and doing all it can to house Ukrainian refugees, but not applying the same principles and rules for Irish people who are also struggling? Like, what would be, as much as you can determine, the thought process that would lead the government to that strategy?
My personal view is guilt for the lack of military support that other countries are providing. But more to the point, and I'll be criticised for this, but this is what I believe, ingratiating our leaders who parade the world with their CVs under their arm with their own futures in mind.
Mm. But they would okay, that's quite a claim. Sort of looking to the future then. And what other question? Why do you believe the package that we're offering is so generous compared to our European? Because normally we follow what happens in Europe. Why do you think we are being so generous? Is it for the same reasons?
Well, I think it's ridiculous. So if you take the people in direct provision in Letterkenny, for example, they get €38.80 per week per adult and €29.80 per week per child. I could have been a multimillionaire in the Ukraine and unfortunately have been displaced by the war. And I'm coming over, I'm getting accommodation, I'm getting $230 per week, I'm getting a medical card, I'm getting free post home. I mean, that's just not fair by any objective analysis.
It's not really fair if you're in direct provision, I suppose. You might feel that why are you being treated differently?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Deputy Mark McSharry, thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. 086 60 25,000 if you have any views on that. Just relating to our comments on the Dublin-Kerry game, was that man watching the same match? They win by 2 points. That's the match ref. Had a lot to do with it. That's the great thing about sport, though. It's subjective and we can all have our different views. And although the referee yesterday should not have been refereeing yesterday's game, being for me, he was giving away opportunities to Dublin and it wasn't fair. How does everyone else feel about this? Is there any... And also, too, they say that there's one instant there. I kind of had a 2-year-old on my head trying to watch the game for much of it. There was a particular point, too, where a decision was made, and they always say, don't argue with the ref. There's no point arguing with the ref. But they did remonstrate with the ref, and he did seem to soften his decision somewhat. A throw ball instead of a free in, which, again, might have been a pivotal point in that game. So, kids, if you're out there listening, keep arguing with the refs. Okay. No, I'm not suggesting one should do that for a moment. there's more conversation coming in as it relates to the proposals for a Christmas craft fair in Buncrana. To Jack Murray, yes, bring a Christmas fair to Buncrana, but not Swan Park. Car park next door to Aldi, or car park behind the library, not Swan Park. That's not for the parks. Thank you, enjoying your show, and thank you for your comments. Hi, Greg. I'm just wondering if you have any other suggestions for me. I listen to your show every morning. I really enjoy it. Thank you for that. I've been refused twice for invalidity pension. I had a life-changing shoulder injury and I've applied for invalidity pension last July. I've been refused twice. I will attach the latest letter from my GP, which you can read. If I could work, I would, but unfortunately I can't lift my arm past 40 degrees. I'd appreciate any help. I'm not in any receipt of payments from the welfare, as my wife's wages are means tested. And the letter is there. I'm not sure there's any advantage me reading it out. We've contacted the department as well. You might remember as well, last week there was a lady on with us. Her son was wanted to be, or is a full-time carer for his sister, I believe the situation was. And they had applied for full-time carers allowance for him because Mum was out working, and that's how Mum was able to obviously pay the bills, but pay for hospital appointments, consultants appointments for the daughter. They had a visit to the house by an inspector months ago, and the inspector refused the application. And they had tried on numerous occasions to get the situation resolved, to get a review, to get an appeal. All of that was falling on deaf ears, and the son was getting frustrated. It was affecting his mental health. Obviously, the pressure's on Mum as well. And she contacted us and come on the show, if you might remember that call. Well, anyway, very shortly thereafter, it's good news. The son now is going to get his carer's allowance for being a carer, and, which I think is really nice as well, the allowance is being backdated to the application point. So not only is he going to be able to be, can't say make a living, but do you know what I mean? To cover his costs for caring for his sister, the money's actually been backdated to the original application that was initially refused. So isn't that great news? And fair play to whomever was responsible for taking a look at that case and seeing that it was a glaringly obvious case that this young man should be receiving the carer's allowance. So positive outcome there.
Hi folks, Paul McDevitt here, inviting you to join myself and Jimmy Stafford this Monday night for another edition of the Monday Night Sessions. On the show this week, we welcome Lord D from County Mayo. Letterkenny band PLZ will also be dropping in for a chat and a few songs, and we also say hello to the Inishowen Choir of the Ages. That's the Monday Night Sessions this Monday night between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. right here on Highland Radio.
Do you run a business in Donegal? Would you like to make it more energy efficient? Then check out the Energy Efficiency Grant from Local Enterprise Office Donegal. Replace your existing equipment with energy-efficient solutions and help your business reduce its carbon footprint while saving on energy costs. If your business is eligible, you could receive 50% of the costs, up to a maximum grant of €5,000. Put all your energy into efficiency. Find out more at localenterprise.ie/Donegal.
The Highland Radio Outside broadcast team are on the road once again. Tune in this Wednesday at 2:30 for the Jive Time Show with David James, and Friday morning for Greg Hughes and the 9 till noon show, with both shows live from the heart of the 56th Mary from Dunlow International Festival to celebrate their fun-filled programme of events. Check out the full lineup on maryfromdunlow.ie. Brought to you in association with Kavanagh's SuperValue Dunlow.
Yes, indeed, and we'll be outside Kavanagh's, I think, next Friday, as you heard Kevin mention there. Looking forward to getting over to Dunlow next Friday and for the weekend as well. And yesterday, they were streaming some of the country concert yesterday. Fantastic. Daniel, of course, always a class act. You know what you get with Daniel. He's so passionate about all things Dunlow and all things Mary from Dunlow. So we're looking forward to being there on Friday morning. As I mentioned, it's for the most part business as usual, but we'll also be having a bit of fun as well, of course. Well, we always have a bit of fun too, don't we? We're not sticks in the muds. Right, 086 60 25,000 WhatsApps and texts. Also, Breed, Siobhan, Rosemary, amongst those watching the show across our YouTube, Facebook pages. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for being on board. Time Ireland got real with refugees. I see a video of people protesting on O'Connell Street. They come to our country. We've taken care of them, give them the best treatment. They have the cheek to stand out on our capital in protest. Time the Garda moved them on. Why didn't they get away within their own country? I would love to know what you're referencing there, because I would keep quite a close eye on all matters online, and I didn't see the protests that you referenced. If you can give me a little bit more information, I'd really appreciate it. Okay, I really appreciate our Head of Sport, Oisín Kelly, in studio with us now. Good morning, Osh. How are you getting on?
Good morning, Greg.
It's good to have you with us. Okay, right, so Ireland are playing their last game in the World Cup. They're playing Nigeria, which I believe are a team that succeeded expectations of them in a really tough group, also involving Australia and Canada. So there's two important games today. I suppose Nigeria, a draw will do them to get out of the group. Yeah. And it's all to play for between the big guns of Canada and Australia. We'll get to that. Just your assessment of Ireland's performance. I mean, it's brilliant to get to the finals, and I think for periods of both games, they did themselves really proud. What's your view?
On reflection, it's been a tremendous achievement to get there. But when you get there, you would like maybe to perform better than, and to have the outcome of the results better than what they were, Greg. They played very well against Australia. They were exceptional in the first half against Canada. But just that final passage of play, that final ball, just hasn't been there, unfortunately, for Ireland. So they'll be disappointed that they weren't able to get a point or get a result or even to draw a game. Now, that may change today because they've got one game to go, but they'll be disappointed with how it panned out, because when you get there, I'm sure the girls wanted to step up to the plate. Today, I haven't seen any team news yet. Wait to see if Amber's going to be playing. She may just decide to give the rest of the girls who are part of the squad, maybe including the likes of Ciara Grant, some game time today, because they're part of the squad that got them to the World Cup. But it'll be mixed feelings for the Irish team. If they lose today, they'll be very disappointed that they haven't won a game. If they can get a draw, it'll somewhat add to the experience.
Today's game, I think they're going to go for it today, and I can see it either being like something like.
But they've nothing to lose, so
they've nothing to lose. 3-2 to Ireland or 4-0 to Nigeria.
There might be a wee bit more. There might be a wee bit more.
I don't think it's going to be a 0-0, 1-1. I think it's going to be. There's going to be 5 goals in the game, one way or other. I think.
But the unfortunate thing about it, when you do go gun ho at it, you're going to think so.
It could be 4-0 to Nigeria. It's an older Irish team, isn't it? Now, there are some brilliant younger players coming through, but I suppose this is the last hurrah for many of these players at World Cup level. Is that a fair enough assessment?
A few of them will be thinking about their careers and what they're going to do next. And listen, Greg, at times, particularly for females, there's a lot of other things that happen in their life that they want to move on with. For some of them, family may be something that they want to do in the coming years, and that means they're going to have to give up their sport. So there'll be a few of the girls that will be thinking of making a call on how far they can go with their international career. You're hoping this is a sort of stepping stone for international football for the women. So the younger girls that are part of the group and those that were sort of on the fringe of the squad would be hoping that a few of the more experienced players may decide to hang around for another campaign, to see if they can bring them on. But who's going to be in charge, Greg? When we're talking about the players, Vera Pauw hasn't got that contract yet.
Does she want it?
Because she seems to does want it.
Because the phrase seems to be the FAI are dragging their feet.
Yeah, it seems to be. Now, why are they doing that? There's a lot going on away from the pitch around Vera Pauw at the minute.
Behind the scenes.
That's obviously what's the allegations made against her from the time that she was involved in soccer in the US. So how prominent is that going to feature in the FAI putting a new deal on the table? She's denied these allegations. I'm sure there's going to be some sort of investigation into it. But do the FAI want to move forward with Vera Pauw? With that hanging over, not knowing what the outcome is going to be, that may be a big factor on it, Greg.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, lots of firsts. First time at a Women's World Cup. First time scoring, first goal.
Yeah.
Hopefully, maybe today
we've only got one.
Point.
Hopefully, we'll get a few more.
Yeah, put first point. Yeah. One's never enough, is it? So there are lots of positives to take away, and I think particularly for people that very much look up to teams like this and aren't poisoned as they get older by the. People sometimes can't enjoy sport. Young people can, and they just see it for what it is, and they'll see it as a brilliant achievement. Yeah. I mean. There's a lot of positives.
If Ireland were to win today, Greg, it would be huge for football, because look at the hype was around when we spoke ahead of the first game.
That was huge.
And about Irish football. And in particular, we were obviously going the Donegal angle with Amber and Ciara. Now, we knew we were hoping that Amber would play some sort of role. We were so deflated afterwards. So we were, and that was just from our local perspective on the team. But overall, from Ireland, you were deflated after the result as well. And you were going from such a high to such a low in a very, very short period of time.
Well, up until the second half of the second game.
But what I'm talking about is a couple of days, Greg, because there was all this build-up and hype, and Ireland's in the World Cup for the first time, and this is great.
I think too, what was a problem with keeping momentum going is the fact it's on the other side of the world, and the timing of it. You know what I mean? You kind of wake up and it's all done and dusted, or you have to go to work and you can't really watch it or whatever. And I think if these World Cups were in Europe, there'd even be more buzz, and it might be even more sustained. Right, okay, so what time's kick-off today?
It's 11 o'clock this morning,
11
Greg.
bells, and it is Ireland versus Nigeria. It'll feel like a home game for Ireland because lots of people are still out there having followed the team, and of course there's a really big Irish population over in Australia at the moment.
Yeah, and it's great seeing the photographs on social media and the local press as well. Different people from different parts of the county who are now residing down under, Greg.
And, so, give us your prediction.
Give us the prediction. Go 1-1 draw.
3-1, 4-1 Nigeria. I'll spread it 3.
I'm trying to be a bit positive here. After seeing them the last day, watching the highlights against Australia. I don't know.
Listen, come here. Did you? I know you're up to your ears at the weekends. Did you get to watch the All Ireland final?
It was brilliant, Greg.
Yeah, you enjoyed it.
It was brilliant, and it wasn't for the there wasn't the high quality scores they were hoping for. I think the man in the middle, David Goff, played a huge role yesterday in letting that game go, and it added to the entire day,
to the spectacle. And do you think
it was edge of the seat stuff?
And it ebbed and flowed too.
It ebbed and flowed, but the way he reffed that game yesterday, to me, that's the way GA matches should be reffed. A lot of refs now, you put a hand on a play, you do anything at all, that would be seen as soft.
Just a lineup coming there.
It would be seen as, so a lot of referees now are blowing for very soft things, but David Goff yesterday got it bang on. So he did. And he done an exceptional job.
Brosnan in goal, Fahey, Quinn, Connolly along the back line, Payne, Ag, Little John, McCabe, and up front O'Sullivan, Carusa and Farrelly.
Right, okay. So no shit, they're not starting Amber today again.
No. Okay, so that's the setup as a 3-4-3. Just got the notification there.
You're on tight with the FAI, I take it? You're on tight with the FAI.
Another exclusive. So, sorry, I got distracted as that came in. You don't believe then the ref changed that game? You think if you look at it over the overall...
I thought he was brilliant yesterday.
Yeah, okay.
I thought he was brilliant on it yesterday. He let a lot of stuff go, which added to the spectacle. So it did. And full credit to Dublin, Greg. 3 points down on 2 occasions. So now I know David Clifford wasn't having the best day at the office, and you get days like that. Luckily, from a Dublin point of view, Greg, it worked out for them yesterday because Clifford didn't show his best.
Yeah.
A lot of people will say Mick Fitzsimons, who has relations here in Donegal, Greg. Miriam, do you remember Miriam used to work here?
I do, of course.
Cousin. So that's the Donegal link.
That's the Donegal connection.
That's the Donegal connection.
It's tenuous, but
and he's got 9 All-Irelands now. He's one of 3 players only to have 9 All. And he was marking David Clifford, and he done a good job at him. But David Clifford yesterday just had an off day at the office, and if he was on form, David Clifford may do nothing for a full game in the last 10 minutes. He could had 2-4 that sort of way, but it didn't happen for him yesterday. And maybe there was a lot of things this year, obviously with his mother passing, and a lot of pressure being talked about as the best Gaelic footballer of all time, and this is now the showpiece for him. It just didn't work out, but there's no doubt he'll be back in an All-Ireland final, and there's no doubt Kerry will be back chomping at it, because if Dublin lose, you looked at the players that were key yesterday. Cluxton was brilliant in goals. He's got 9 All-Irelands. Is he going to come back at 41 years of age then? Jack McCaffrey, who came off the bench.
10's a nice round number, though.
Yeah, was exceptionally good. The older players played a huge role yesterday. If you were to take that out of that Dublin setup,
Well, that was their strength for sure. So, Oisín, listen, fantastic stuff. Thanks very much. Oisín will be back with lunch at sport at lunchtime with the latest and all of that stuff. Right, Oisín Kelly, thank you very much indeed. Head of sport at Highland Radio. Okay, let's take a break for the news and obituary notices. We'll be right back thereafter. Stay right where you are.
Homeowners, it's time to unlock incredible savings on your energy bills. Efficient Renewables is here to reduce your energy consumption, say goodbye to skyrocketing costs and hello to renewable energy solutions. With no VAT on solar panels and the generous grants for both solar panels and heat pumps, see these innovative systems in action in our state-of-the-art showroom in Newton Cunningham today. Contact Efficient Renewables on 074 97 08320.
Welcome to the Spa at Orchids, one of Europe's largest spas at the Holyrood Hotel, Bundoran. Discover tranquility in our Japanese-themed garden, boasting 7 treatment rooms, seaweed baths, and a secret garden with an outside hot tub and sauna. Now, let me take you to the heart of Bundoran, where you'll find the Holyrood Hotel Spa and Leisure Centre. Don't miss out on our exclusive midweek hotel specials. More information at holyroodhotel.com.
Guess what the family specials are every Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday at Larkins of New Mills. They're 2 courses for 2 adults and 2 children for just $49.95. Choose from extensive adults and children's menus, and it's only €6 per extra child. Great family specials every Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday at Larkins of New Mills. To book, call 9126697.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's Donna Marie Doherty with the news in full at 10 o'clock. Parents of the Twin Towns area have been warned of an apparent incident involving 2 children being beckoned into a car. The Finn Valley Centre shared a post on social media telling of what is believed to be 3 men engaging with children in the car park. They say CCTV has been handed in to Gardaí. In a statement, Gardaí say while they responded to reports of a suspicious approach, no offences were disclosed. Current and planned industrial action by pilots at Emerald Airlines have been suspended. The airline operates a Dublin-Donegal route often used for those travelling to avail of cancer treatment plans. There are growing fears among patients with Donegal cancer flights and services regarding flight availability. However, Forza Trade Union made the announcement as talks are to get underway this morning in a bid to resolve the dispute covering pilots' terms and conditions of employment. Further steps to reform the insurance industry are now in place. The Justice Minister is starting updated duty of care legislation today. Tara Duggan reports.
This legislation being commenced by Minister Helen McEntee today will try and strike the right balance between ensuring businesses, community groups and organisers of events fulfil their duty of care responsibilities. It will also highlight the importance of personal responsibilities of visitors, recreational users and of trespassers. It's being described as a key element of the insurance reform and an important step in efforts to make insurance cheaper and more accessible. The amendments change the standard to clarify when the occupier of a property has acted with reckless disregard for a recreational user or trespasser. The standards of reckless disregard rather than that of reasonable grounds should apply in relation to any consideration of liability. They limit the circumstance in which a court can impose liability on the occupier of a premises where a person is entered onto the premises for the purpose of committing an offence.
Donegal County Council have issued a notice to motorists that the top section of the Glencar Road will be closed today due to ongoing works. Diversions will be in place. These works are set to continue to the Croft until Friday. A traffic management plan will be in place to allow access from tomorrow. Detectives in Strand Road are investigating following 2 reports of burglaries at residential properties. This is in the Branch Road area of Derry on Saturday evening last. Cleano O'Dwyer has more.
In a statement, the PSNI says a report was made on Saturday evening between 6:30 and 7 o'clock. Entry had been gained to the first home and a number of items and a sum of cash were taken. A second report was made, also in the Branch Road area, of entry being gained to a home. However, at this time, it's believed nothing has been stolen. Police say they're keen to speak to a man who may have been in the vicinity at this time. He's described as being aged in his 30s, approximately 5'7" to 5'10" tall and of stocky build. killed. He was wearing a checkered flat cap, a sports-style top and dark-coloured shorts with 3 stripes down the side. They're also appealing to anyone who believes they have CCTV or other video footage or relevant information to contact police on 101.
Meanwhile, investigations are ongoing into the assault of a young woman in Strabane on Saturday, July 1st. It happened in a bar on Market Street at approximately 11:50 p.m. Police are appealing to those who were in the bar and witnessed the incident to make contact. Using nuclear power as additional energy source has been described as too risky. The French ambassador has encouraged Ireland to consider small and modular nuclear reactors as part of its energy mix in the future. Speaking to the Business Post, Vincent Grennan is in support of newer nuclear technologies being used to allow smaller reactors to be built. Member of anti-nuclear movement Neil McCann believes the risks are too high.
They're dangerous. The risks of harm and nuclear pollution from damage to a micro version of the reactors that we have at the moment also is highly toxic. So they're the two main issues. The people who were initially concerned about climate change from the late 1970s, 1980s were also largely the same individuals in the environmental movement that were concerned about nuclear safety.
Looking now to weather, it will be mostly cloudy, mixed with occasional outbreaks of showery rain, turning heavy or possibly thundery in some spots later. A breezy day and moderate to fresh westerly winds, with stronger winds in the earlier part of the day. Highs of 17 to 19 degrees. That's all for now. I'll be back again with the news headlines at 11 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
The obituary notices for this Monday morning, July the 31st. The death has taken place of Nora Connors, née Friel, Tamney Fanid. Remains reposing at the home of her brother, Jim and Mary Friel, Ballymichael Fanid. Funeral will take place tomorrow in St Mary's Church, Fanavolti Fanid at 11 o'clock, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Donations in lieu of flowers to Community Hospital Ramelton, care of any family member or Eamon Scott funeral directors. The death has occurred of Mary Ferry, née Diver, Moordun, Edinburgh and formerly of Derry Hereth, Creeslaw, County Donegal. Remains reposing at the family home at 35 Moordun Park Street, Edinburgh on Thursday, with rosary at 6:30. Funeral mass will be held in St John Vianney's RC Church, Edinburgh at 10 o'clock on Friday morning, with burial at Morton Hall Cemetery at 11:15. The death has occurred of Mary McLaughlin, formerly Ballinamore, Fintown. Remains reposing at McCool's Chapel of Rest, Ballybuffet, today and tomorrow from 6 o'clock until rosary at 9 o'clock each day. Funeral leaving from there on Wednesday afternoon at 1 o'clock for Requiem Mass in St Colmcille's Church, Fintown at 2 o'clock. Interment afterwards in the adjoining churchyard. The Requiem Mass will be streamed live via the Facebook page. The death has occurred of Liam McMenamin, Eggalty Bain, Castlefin, reposing at his late home in Eggalty Bain this evening from 5 o'clock. Funeral from the family home tomorrow afternoon at 1:15 for Requiem Mass at 2 o'clock in St Mary's Church, Castlefin. Cremation afterwards in Lakelands Crematorium, County Cavan. Family home in Eggalty Bain is private to family and close friends. The death has occurred of Fonzie McMenamin, 40, Lochfoggy Road, Castlederg, reposing at the family home. Funeral from the family home tomorrow morning at 10:15 for Requiem Mass at 11 o'clock in St Patrick's Church, Ahayarn. Interment afterwards in the adjoining churchyard. The Mass can be viewed via the parish webcam. Family time please from 10:30 tonight. The death has occurred of Philly Rogers, Loncanier. Philly's remains are reposing at his home today. Funeral Mass tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock in the Star of the Sea Church, Annagry, with interment afterwards in the new cemetery. Family time from after the rosary until 10 o'clock. Family flowers only. Donations in lieu if desired to Dunno Community Hospital, care of any family member or Sean McGlynn funeral directors. And the death has taken place in Malahide, Dublin, of Sean McElwee, manager in Austin Loch Alton, Gorta Horg. Requiem Mass this morning at 11 o'clock in Christ the King Church, Gorta Horg, with burial afterwards in Fintown Cemetery. Family flowers only. Funeral Mass can be viewed live on mcmmedia.tv. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
You could be in Spain. Feels like 40 degrees. Most likely 18. I know the feeling. There's no breeze today. Not a bit. Oh, some sun cream in the eye there.
Here, a little help.
And it's raining. The Irish weather isn't for everyone, but energy from Flowgas is. Order your solar panels through Flowgas for as little as €5,500, so you can start saving on your electricity and do your bit to help the environment too. To start your solar energy journey, visit flowgas.ie. Flowgas. Energy for everyone. Terms and conditions apply. Price inclusive of an SEAI grant of €2,400.
And you're very welcome back to the second hour of the 9 till noon show. Good morning if you have just joined us. Hope you're all very well this Monday morning, the last Monday of July for 2023. Right, some of your comments coming in over the course of the morning. Greg, I don't like the way newscasters describe a serious assault with the person having non-life-threatening injuries. You could be left with various broken bones, left disabled, or left with fairly minor bruising and still classified as non-life-threatening. Well, I do understand what you're saying, but obviously the victim has to have their personal circumstances respected. Non-life-threatening injuries means that they aren't going to lose their life over the head of it, but it is described often as a serious assault. So a serious assault does include the things that you talk of, various broken bones and what have you. But it's just out of respect for the victim. So it's described as serious, so people know that it was a serious assault, but non-life-threatening injuries means that they've gone to hospital, been assessed, and they're stable, and they're not likely to succumb to their injuries. I understand that it doesn't tell the full story, and I know there's a recent case as well in our own county, in Ardra, where someone was assaulted and serious injuries. So I do understand what you're saying, but I also understand the way the words have to be used. A caller says, why do taxpayers have to subsidise businesses who are getting money for their electricity bills? Surely we could all be in business if our bills were paid for us. Business is incredibly important, though. They're facing the same, in fact, much more as a percentage of their income, bills, electricity bills, and if they go under, it has a huge impact on society as a whole, because people lose jobs, mortgages don't get paid, people need to go on to benefits potentially. So I can see the logic in helping businesses out as well. In the incident you referred to in yesterday's match, the referee was going to issue a yellow card, but when the player demonstrated against him, he decided the issue of a yellow card, declined it, and gave a free instead. The game wasn't as exciting as I'd expected, but I think the referee had a good game. As for being from Meath, there is no love lost between Meath and Dublin. It's a bit like Donegal and Tyrone. As a neutral observer, I think the best team on the day one, that comes in from Sam. Oh, sorry, it doesn't come in from Sam. I think the best team on the day one, Sam. All right, okay. But yeah, as I say, I might be conflating a couple of issues because I had the ears pulled off me. Ireland have been very poor, says this listener. We can still string two decent passes together. The standard of this World Cup in general is bad, very hard to watch. Well, I haven't had an opportunity to watch very much of it at all. Both Donegal girls are named on the bench, by the way. That's just one piece of information we weren't able to bring you before 10. So hopefully both Amber and Ciara see some match time today. Significant amounts where they can make an impact as well. It's interesting, Amber's listed on the team sheet as a defender. The public concern on the issue of mass immigration is too great to ignore. Results of polls show that 75% of Irish people think Ireland has taken in too many asylum seekers. That is one take on that, indeed. The A5 road from Newtown Stewart to Omagh is blocked due to a multi-vehicle incident. We're being asked to let you know to please avoid and take alternative routes. Waking up again another morning with a serious, what seems like in terms of disruption, hopefully not injury, but certainly seems like a serious incident on the A5 from Newtown Stewart to Omagh. It's blocked due to a multi-vehicle incident. You're asked to please avoid and take alternative routes. A caller says, hoping for a score draw today with Amber scoring. It would mean underdogs Nigeria would qualify through to the last 16. I'll see what you're talking about there. So Amber could get on the team sheet and Nigeria could progress. Best of both worlds from that listener's perspective. Does anyone know that if Ireland scores a goal in any of the World Cup matches, the team gets extra money? Does it? Are you asking? Is that a question or a statement? I don't know. It wouldn't be unusual for incentives. I'd be shocked if it made its way to women playing for Ireland, but maybe there are. I don't know. Mark McSharry is so right in what he says. Ridiculous what we are giving to others, and shameful how we're treating our own. Our young people won't ever be able to afford a home, can't get it on a doctor's list, and our students who are hoping to go to college are at their wits' end trying to get accommodation. This government has a lot to answer for, they believe, on how they're treating the people of this country. But is there some alternative views out there as well? I mean, like, do you believe the policies that are being followed at the moment are correct? And if so, why? 086 60 25,000. More than happy to read them out as well. 086 60 25,000. Maybe you feel the government's hands are tied. They're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't. I'm just putting that out there to see what you think. Right, okay. Let us take a quick break.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Monday, July 31st. You're playing on a green coloured sheet. The reference number is S11. It's game number 31. The numbers are 22, 16, 54, 81, 21, 80, 34, 38, 62 and 23. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 p.m. tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book. Get all your NCBI Radio Bingo information at highlandradio.com.
If you'd like to make a difference in children's early learning and care, why not join the team at Wonder Years? With an attractive pay scale, you'll enjoy a 4-day working week, have access to a pension scheme and a scholarship programme to upskill to degree level. Help give young children the best opportunity to become lifelong learners with a range of skill sets by joining the team at Wonder Years in Rossbracken, Cunningham, and now also at Castle Shanahan, Letterkenny. Email your CV today to info@wonderyearselc.ie.
This week in Home Store and More, all garden furniture sets are still all half price. But better hurry, because when all the half price garden furniture sets are gone, they're definitely gone. Choose from a selection of rattan sofa sets, lounger sets and dining sets, like the Messina rattan corner sofa set for €374.50, or get the San Rocco grey rattan sofa lounger set for €199.50. Drop by your local Home Store and More, or visit us online at homestoreandmore.ie. Home Store and More, a happy home.
Okay, we're joined now by John McLaughlin, who is Director of JML Transport. John, thanks for joining us this morning. How are you keeping?
Good, Greg, good.
Right.
So far.
Yeah, indeed. That's good. I suppose it is only 16 minutes past 10. Right, you're joining us to make people aware that they may not be aware of a levy that comes into force tomorrow. Give us the background to this levy, John.
Yeah, there was a £10 charge per truck crossing the border up until just before COVID, and then the British government decided to pull it off whenever COVID started to get really bad and whatever, and they've done that. But we got notification about a month, 6 weeks ago, to say it was coming back on tomorrow morning. And I've been saying it to people over the weekend, and I was talking to 2 other hauliers just literally 15 minutes ago, and I said, mind your charge tomorrow. And he says, what charge? I said, £10 charge across the border tomorrow morning. If you don't pay £10, you will have a minimum fine of £300.
And what is this charge for, and who's it paid to, and how?
That's paid to the British government for the use of the roads. And yet the Irish government's given the British government, I don't know how many millions for to do the A5 and do everything else. And here we go again. Yeah.
And how is it paid? How's it collected, John?
You have to pay the British government. You get a number and a thing in Britain, and you subscribe to that. They usually give you, if you put the lorry on for a year, it's usually about £1,000 to £1,200 per year. And if you're paying daily, it's £10 per day. So if one of my Arctics over 12 ton, if one of my Arctics goes in, and this has happened to me on 2 or 3 different occasions, whenever, just before COVID, I come back to the yard, jumped out of one lorry, jumped in another lorry and headed up the north, and the next thing Vosa pulled me in, £300 fine on the spot, seized the lorry, pulled her up, can't move till it's paid. I forgot to tell Breed that I took the wrong lorry with me, and Breed forgot to pay the £10 charge, £300 fine.
Wow, straight in. So, does that give you access for the day to the roads, or if you cross out and in it?
Yeah.
So it's for the day.
For a 24-hour period.
And that adds up.
If you go to England for 3 days.
Yeah.
Oh, it all adds up. It's all money. Like, it's all serious money. And again, it's going to be the customers' money. We're going to have to pass it on again. But it's just very frustrating because as far as, like, we're giving the British government in Northern Ireland a lot of money to extend the A5 and do this, do that, do that, and then they turn around and do this. I don't know. I don't think it's very fair. All Northern Ireland lorries and English lorries can come to Ireland, and there's not a word said about it.
Yeah, and margins are tight too. You could argue, is it anti-competitive as well? Does it give Northern Irish businesses a competition advantage?
It does. It does in certain ways, and the same with the fuel. Like the fuel, there's no excuse. I think the fuel went up nearly 10 cents a litre this week. And why did it up? No one can tell me.
So, is it a case that this is enforced on the border, or if you're stopped travelling in the north, you have to have proof that you've paid this £10?
No, they will. VOSA has the same as them new Garda cars or new police cars now.
Number plate recognition, right?
So if you can imagine the VOSA car coming out of home heading for Newton Stewart, and he meets my lorry going up the road, and the minute my registration number comes up, it'll just show up on his car. Oh, you did not paid. Turn around, £300 fine.
Wow.
But the difference is they won't turn around and say, "Oh, John, it's okay. She's paid tomorrow, right? The lorry will be parked and will be seized until the money is paid."
And I suppose, too, in terms of paying for it yearly, you'd have to have some certainty of your business to put that money out in advance, and then you have to say, well, is it better off doing it day by day, or what's the story?
That's thousands and thousands of pounds. They could probably have to pay about 10, 12,000 this afternoon, sterling, put the lorries on for the year. Because, and that's just me. I'm small compared to the local boys here at Duffy Express and people like that, and they got groupies, people like that just go through the north every day. Like, it's a lot of money. It's a wide lot of extra expense for nothing.
Yeah, and this is obviously post-Brexit. This is post-Brexit, isn't it? Yeah, and your argument is that, we are committing money to the A5. There's that All-Ireland Rail Strategy review that's been launched. There's talk of maybe subsidising Derry City Airport. Yeah, exactly. There's talk of subsidising Derry City Airport down the line. There's calls for that. Yet in the other direction, people like yourself are being charged €10 per day per truck just to simply drive on the roads of Northern Ireland.
Yeah, and do you see the British government giving that much to Mayo for the keep knock or some of these guys going, like, rather than giving it? Like, I know Northern Ireland Airport is unbelievable, and my daughter use it regular. It is unbelievable, and I can sympathise with them, but God, there has to be something somewhere. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, we don't get subsidised the health everywhere with trucks. Like, it's one of the tightest games you'll ever be in.
I'll tell you, 11, 12, 13,000 pounds is a big chunk of cash out of any business.
It is, yeah.
With all the other costs that you talk of.
Over and above, like.
Yeah.
And the fuel, the way it's rising at the minute, because that's where the another day, because I'm just about to, as you well know, in 2008, I was a row then, and I got a rebate for the
That's
truck.
right, I remember it, yeah.
It's time to start another row, I think, and this time it's going to be a very serious row, I think, to be honest with you, because they just can't keep doing what they're doing. And the argument they're making is that it's all about carbon and all this, like, but when the truth all be known, like, you take a petrol car, you take a diesel car, and you take an electric car, and from day one till you go out and sell a car at the garage, which is the most expensive? The electric car by 3 times the price of a diesel car and 5 times the price of a petrol car.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are others will dispute that, but that's your view. Okay, I get you.
Yeah, no. But I count everything, and they don't count everything, and they don't count getting the batteries out of foreign countries and taking out to China to make batteries to bring back on to put on electric cars. Like, I don't count that. That's not allowed to be counted.
So this £10 levy, Is it a Brexit measure or is it an environmental measure? What was the argument for introducing it? I don't seem to recall.
It was a case of both, but they were trying to get more money for the pay for the roads and
so it's a toll, really.
The cost of it's a toll basically. Yes.
Okay,
but it's a toll that only works one way, not two ways.
Yeah, which is not very fair, is it?
No,
okay.
No.
Right, John, listen, as you say...
A lot of people's going to get caught out, and I don't want somebody having to get a £300 fine because I'd rather pay the £10 than pay the $300.
Yeah.
So
and as you said earlier on, John, ignorance isn't a defence. They do not negotiate with you. It's £300.
No, they don't.
End of story.
No, I guarantee you there'll be more Vorsa cars out tomorrow on Northern Ireland roads than there will be ever.
So it's just...
they'll be just looking for the money.
Say you just had a run into Strabane. Would you still have to pay it?
£10.
Really? Wow.
£10.
Okay.
Cross Lifford Bridge, go over to the roundabout, come back, £10.
Wow, that's fascinating.
So, and then anything over 12 tons.
So that's not just lorries. A bus? Would a bus?
The buses is no. I think the buses has got some kind of
exemption.
They've got some kind of something because of pasture something.
I get you. No, that's okay. No, I was just curious if it extended to all heavy vehicles.
Yeah.
All right, John, be warned if you're a truck driver or a trucking company and you didn't realise this £10 toll effectively for the joy of travelling on Northern Irish roads is back in effect from tomorrow morning. And if you found, having not paid it, £300 sterling. All right, listen, thanks very much for that.
Thanks, Greg.
Appreciate it. All right, take care of yourself. 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000. So we've dealt with a lot of conversations about cash and the use of cash or where you can't use cash. You know, there's been a lot of anger and upset as it relates to access to football matches, for example, dependent on the competition, having to pay cash or buy tickets in advance. The Three Arena, a lot of people upset that you have to use you can't use cash in the Three Arena. Well, the latest thing is the National Ploughing Championships. The organisers of it have defended a decision to move to cashless ticketing for this year's event. In previous years, attendees could purchase their ticket in cash at the gate on the day they wanted to attend. But this year, the National Ploughing Association has been criticised after it insisted that tickets must be pre-purchased online in advance in order to control the numbers of people attending each day. Councillor Frank Roach, Independent, is Mayor of Cork. He joins us now. Good morning, Frank. Thanks for your time.
Hello, Councillor Frank O'Flynn.
O'Flynn, right. Sorry, I beg your pardon. I've got completely the wrong details here in front of me. You're still the Mayor of Cork County, though, which is welcome, Frank.
Okay. First of all, I'm delighted to be with you this morning. I wish all my good friends up there in the northwest, especially Donegal and the Highland areas there. I love going there on holidays.
Good.
I go up to Kesslide. And I'm Mayor of Cork for 3 weeks, so I'll be here for 12 months. So I'm the local county, Fianna Fáil County Council here. My area is the Fermoy Mitchelstown area, which is North Cork, and then Mayor of the county.
Yeah, I suspect I see where someone's made a slight mistake here in confusing you with another mayor down there. Right, okay, anyway. So what do you think of this move by the organisers of the Ploughing Championship? They say this is so they can control numbers of people attending the event on each day. It's not a big thank you for the many tens of thousands that want to attend. Is that your view?
Well, as someone who attends the ploughing year in, year out, whatever part of the country is, often we use it probably as 2 or 3 days. There's our holiday season. Tis the pilgrimage. Tis the local farming community. Now, both urban and country are attending. It's also the day that the local schools, the secondary national attend. And I think there's a kick in the teeth, and I think there's a step too far. No consultation, no discussion whatsoever. I'd love to know what the committee were thinking of. I cannot see why they're bringing this in, because normally, as you know and your listeners know, it's held out in the open air, it's held in open fields, and thanks be to God, we still have enough land and plenty fields and plenty of space. There seems to be no issue whatsoever. I was actually there last year on the Wednesday. They said there was about 110,000, 120,000 there. There could be up to 200,000 there, because we take all the people with the stands and all the people who supply and people who work in it. And so definitely I feel, and when I saw it in the paper first, then numerous people contacted me. We brought it up on our last county council, Cork County Council. meeting, and we decided to write to the NPA, National Plan, and to ask them, all we are calling for is, I think they should pause it. I think there's a step too far, and I see no reason, because we have a lot of older people. They are loyal supporters down to the year. No discussion whatsoever. And there's a certain section of the community now, I feel, and my other council friends feel, that they're going to be denied access. Because some other people wouldn't have got cards, they haven't got bank accounts, they haven't got checks, they haven't got that facility. So what I'm saying is this: would they look at it for this year and a couple of years, say, put in at least 1 or 2 gates where a person, if they have a card, they could swipe. Like you go to Knock now, there was a Knock there recently, you can swipe your card on the way out.
What I don't understand, it doesn't make sense, the reasons given, because the Assistant Managing Director of the National Ploughing Championship says they've done this on the back of a demand from the emergency services to know how many people are attending each day. Now, it's not very difficult to see what the maximum number might be. You just look at it historically, and that number could fluctuate greatly dependent on the weather as well. I'm not buying that. I'm not saying anyone's lying or anything. But look, I think if you look over the years, you look at the weather, there is a bit of spontaneity there and people going or not going. So, in other words, if they sell 10,000 tickets, there might be 7,000 that buy tickets and an extra 730. The point I'm trying to make, and I'm not making it very well here, is that I'm not buying the fact that the emergency services want to know how many is going to be at it, because it's a rough number that would fluctuate whether they buy the tickets in advance or not.
Well, I'd love to see the demand where it is written, or whoever thought about it, because I don't think it was members. If you book a ticket now online, and they consider it, I see no reason why they can't consider that. They have a fair reason. They could have a fair number. But if you buy a ticket now, say for the Tuesday, it's normally held on the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. It's a very, very successful event. It's everyone loves to attend, and it's showing off what we have good in rural Ireland, especially from the farming community. And it's great to meet the town people and the urban and the city people together, and the rural Ireland together. But if you buy a ticket off for Tuesday, and God forbid if there was an accident in the morning, or you have to take your neighbour to the hospital, or something happened, you're an animal sick, or a horse sick, or a sheep sick, and you couldn't go, you now lose that. You can if you can't go on the Tuesday, you can use that ticket on a Wednesday. She made that quite clear yesterday. You can use it on a Thursday. So maybe it is another way of making money. But I personally feel is they can bring in their system, but they should facilitate people, older people who may not have cards. Cash is still legal tender in this country, and now may it continue. But I think it's a step too far. And the big thing I see here, no discussion whatsoever, no consultation. Maybe now they think they've gone so far above they can just ride over us, roughshod. I personally feel it. Continue with their system if they want to book it online, but at the same time, is have 1 or 2 gates where a card can be used or cash can be used, and try it out for a couple of years. I don't think there's too much to ask.
Yeah, I mean, you never want to lose touch with your support base, and it's like this radio station, it's like any organisation, the same with the Ploughing Championships. It is nothing without the people that support it. They really need to be careful here that they don't shoot the golden goose here, because as you say quite rightly,
I would ask the board at this stage, I'd ask the National Ploughing Board and its managing director, would they kindly look at the system again? It's a step too far. They had no discussion whatsoever. Are they now going to deny? Because this is the silent majority out there. A lot of these people would not crave or catch a phone and give out to the local radio station or the local paper, but they have come to me, Frank, on the ground. What in the name of God is happening in this country? Are we gone absolutely crazy? We have plenty open land. We have plenty room there for car parking. If a person now decides on the Tuesday, the Wednesday, the Thursday to go, and they haven't got a book, are they going to arrive above and be sent home? I told them go up and climbing over the ditch if they have to. I think the National Ploughing got absolutely gone, as I said, a step too far. No consultation, no discussion, but in the system. Are they listening to their supporters, their loyal supporters? I definitely think as a local councillor in County Cork and as mayor of the County of Cork, Frank O'Flynn, I don't think they're doing it. And by the number of calls I'm getting in the past couple of days since we brought it up at the Cork County Council, we've written to request them now, and I'd love to see the reply we get.
And it would be lovely too if sometimes an organisation read the room and thought, well, maybe we didn't read the room correctly, and maybe we should do the right thing here. I don't hold out much hope that that might happen, but I'll tell you, there are people that won't go or won't be able to go because they don't like using cards, either online or even in person for that matter, and they want to use their cash, and some people aren't going to be happy. Mayor of Cork County, Councillor Frank O'Flynn, thank you so much for your time. Sorry for misnaming you at the beginning, but we got there in the end, and we look forward to welcoming you.
And I still look forward to my good friends up in that part to go meet him at the Clown Championships. It's our annual pilgrimage, it's our annual holiday. Long may it continue. And I plead at this stage with the National Clown, would they kindly listen what the people on the ground are saying.
Thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day. 08660 25,000 is the WhatsApp and text. What do you think? Now, do you have an issue in your relationship where phobbing is a thing? And do you think it could be disruptive to your relationship? Well, that's what a study found. Phobbing is where you fob off your partner because you're on your phone. We're going to be discussing that and more after we take this break. Stay right where you are.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
Get Ireland's best broadband with Virgin Media and enjoy speeds of up to 2 gig and 99.9% reliability. Hear that, Aoife? Huh? There's no better way to get lost in that Scandi crime series.
I have no idea what's going on here.
You should really put on the subtitles.
Fair point.
Whatever way you play, switch today at virginmedia.ie. Virgin Media. It's playtime.
Terms and conditions apply, subject to location and availability. Ireland's best broadband awarded by Umlaut. See virginmedia.ie/proof.
Shrink your bill with incredible value in your Dunnes Stores basket. Save in the aisle when you mix and match 3 for €10 on a great range of meat and fish, like sweet and spicy chicken wings, fresh salmon darns, and a 4-pack of quarter-pounder steak burgers. Then save again at the till with a 5 off 25 grocery voucher and get a full basket worth €20.31 for just $20.31. Double savers from Dunnes Stores. Always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used on next in-store grocery shop of €25 or more.
Foilside, at the centre of more for your euro, with great value gifts. So it's worth making the journey wherever you live. With convenient parking, late nights and all your favourite brands, you're better off shopping at Foilside. See foilside.co.uk.
On this week's Deal Debate, it's the big one, the All-Ireland football final, Dublin versus Kerry. I'll be joined on the show by Irish News sports columnist Cara O'Keefe and Kerry legend Mike Frank Russell. We'll also look across the weekend's action in the Hurling Championship here in Donegal and the story so far this season with former county star Eugene Organ. That's the DL Debate this Monday just after 7pm news and podcasting on highlandradio.com.
The DL Debate with Sister Sarah's Letterkenny, serving food you'll love in Sarah's Kitchen. And there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
All right, so a study found regular phobbing could be damaging marriages and relationships, of course, intimate relationships, because, you know, you're sitting beside someone and maybe one or both are on the phone, you're snubbing your partner in favour of this online world. Mary Johnston's a specialist in counselling, marriage and relationships with Accord and joins us now. Mary, lovely to have you on the programme. How are you keeping?
Yes, great, Greg. Thank you. It's nice to be on your programme. Thank you for inviting us.
Do you think phobbing is a symptom of a problem in a relationship or something that may cause problems in a relationship?
I think it's probably something, it can be a bit of both, but I suppose it's what struck me about it is probably a new word for many of us, but it's actually not a new behaviour. I think the word came into being in about 2012 in Australia. So it's, you know, about ignoring the person you're in person with in favour of being on your phone or your devices. And I suppose it can be a habit. You know, people can have a habit and they're doing that. And if it's not drawn to their attention and if they don't make changes, definitely it can cause, you know, as it goes on, it can cause problems in relationships. And also, I suppose, if a relationship is in a difficult space, in some instances, it may be more likely to happen. When people come to us on their first session, we look with them at issues that come up in their relationship. So we've looked, and it can come up under problem behaviours. So I looked back on some of our stats, and in 2021, 15% of the clients who came to us in 2021 said that their own or their partner's use of phone, texting, internet or social media always or often cause problems. So that was 2021. In 2022, it went up by 2%. So we had 17% of the clients who come to us and they reported that their own use or their partner's use of phone, internet or social media caused problems. Now we're asking a wide question there. And in 2023, it's gone down 1% from 2022 to 16%. That's kind of a broader question and it takes in activity on the internet and social media.
Yeah, so someone could be up in the office or on their laptop in a different room, and that would sort of fall under this. But still, it's a significant thing. But it's an accumulative situation, I would imagine, that it only over time maybe starts to grate or becomes a problem. It's not irreversible in any case, but I think particularly if it's just the seeds of annoyance are being planted.
Yeah, it's not irreversible at all. I mean, if you think, which of us maybe hasn't concentrated on a device? And I mean, you might see it happening in the workplace. It happens in couples' relationships, and you can make changes. I suppose the best thing for somebody to do if it is annoying them is to bring it up with their partner and say, look, when you're doing this, I don't feel listened to, or I'd like you to look at me when you're listening to me. The worst thing to do would, I suppose, be sort of berating them and saying, look at you, you never do anything else, you're always at this and you're very difficult. And, so I think it's to come from your own feelings and what you need, because you can feel quite disrespected if you've had that experience with anybody where you're talking to them and you note from their eyes and their activity that they're more zoned in on their device than they are with you. So that's not a good experience.
And that evokes an emotion, a basic emotion going, I must be so uninteresting that this infinite scrolling that you're doing is more interesting to listen to what I have to say. I mean, and that I think anyone would most people, would find that over time, if not instantly, upsetting and degrading and annoying, and whichever word would suit the situation.
It would. I think you could feel quite dismissed. You could feel quite disrespected. You could feel, look, I don't matter, or, oh, he or she or whoever is just not interested in what I'm saying. And that's not a good message in a relationship. We need to feel that our partner is interested in us, wants to pay attention to us, is curious. And there may be, I suppose, if something like that happens once off or now and again, but if it's constantly happening and it's becoming more and more, happening more and more, of course it's going to cause absolutely.
And I suppose in a meeting with a counselling service, you dig into it a little bit. Maybe it's escapism. Maybe the person is... that is where they're escaping into the online world. Maybe they work from home, or their phone's important to work and they're struggling with stress at work or to strike a work-life balance. It's not always just, liking dog pictures on Facebook either. It's complex,
absolutely. And it's not always, like, sometimes people maybe can be disrespectful or dismissive and they may not realise it. And when it's brought to their attention, that gives them an opportunity to do something about it. So, you need to give somebody a chance. But people can be under pressure from work, or they can be a bit absent-minded, or, sometimes there are, I suppose, conditions that somebody may, be very impulsive, or they may find it very hard to focus, and it could be something like that. But it definitely needs to be addressed and spoken about, and efforts made to change it, because it won't help the quality of the relationship at all.
Yeah, and we do a sort of a segment whereby we try and help listeners with their relationship questions. And the answer a lot of the time is simple, is to express how you feel, to find a way in which you can have the conversation at the right time in a non-confrontational way, and to say that what's happening is making me feel like this. But it's what we struggle with. We're often ring a phone line, chat to a friend, or send a text into a radio station before we'll have that conversation. Is it because we're afraid it might lead to a row or open up a bigger can of worms? Or, why are we so afraid to express our feelings until such point as we're at tipping or breaking point?
I suppose, sometimes maybe we've had the experience, it didn't go down well before. We said, look, when you do this, I feel this way. And we got off, for God's sake, don't be so fussy, or don't be so, sensitive. So we could have got a bad reaction initially. Sometimes in relationships, we mightn't feel it might go down well. So we might pull away from it. But really, really, I think to make yourself and to try and get yourself into the mode, I need to bring it up, and I need to bring it up at a reasonable time and in the best possible way. And do not bring it up with a personal criticism of the person who's doing it. Try and stick to the behaviour. This behaviour is upsetting me. I'm feeling dismissed. I'm feeling disrespected. I really would like it to change it, rather than you're always, you never. You know, that won't.
Or even approach
the other
as,
person
look,
is likely to be defensive then.
Yeah, and you can even approach it. Look, I've noticed we are both inclined to blah, 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 right? So what can couples put in place to sort of bring the phone, the laptop out of the scenario, and, you know, to maybe allow conversation about how was your day or how are you feeling? What's advice do you offer there, Mary?
Yeah, I suppose it's all about having boundaries, isn't it? You know, and for a couple to agree, when are the times that we won't, you know, the times that we might have coffee, or we might go for a walk, or we might have something to eat at home, or whatever it is. They're, you know, to look at the times that will suit your schedule and your lifestyle, so that we won't always have these devices, so that it suits everybody. And I think, you know, that's probably the best way to go.
Yeah, indeed. And what I was going to say to you is that what about then, if it does it matter if it's in, actually I'll park that, because I was going to broaden this out a little bit. I know your focus is on marriage and relationships are those with your sons and daughters.
Yes.
We have to, you know, we also have to make sure that we allow space to get the head out of the laptops and the phones and talk to our young people as well, and vice versa.
Absolutely. And in those cases, Greg, too, we have to do a little bit of, as parents or as adults, if we're working with adolescents, or if we have, you know, adult children, we need to do a bit of good modelling as well. Like, there's no point in me saying, oh, you mustn't do this, you mustn't do that, or you mustn't do the other, when all I model is that I'm doing it. So in terms of younger people, you know, if what they see, they may do. So we need to be, you know, we need to look at ourselves as well. I mean, I think you brought up a good point there about it could be the two of us. You know, we need to say, this is difficult for me when you do this, but we need to be conscious, what's difficult for you when I do something. So we need to be open to looking at ourselves, and we need to be open to model for young people if we want them to behave in a particular way. But look, I would encourage couples, if you feel things have gotten too difficult and you just can't talk about things, I think it's important to go for professional counselling. We've 2 centres in Donegal, one in Letterkenny and one in Carndonna, and we also offer online counselling. You can get all the information on our website, www.accord.ie.
Yeah, and it's one of those issues that both are likely, not exclusively, to be in the same boat. Both parties are probably guilty of this, and both will benefit from a little bit of... Okay, Mary, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Mary Johnson, specialist in counselling, marriage and relationships with Accord. Does that resonate with you? 086 60 25,000. I broke up with my ex 6 years ago, Greg, over phone use. We would land home from work and she could spend 2 to 3 hours on Facebook's in silence. She wouldn't even discuss it. I can only imagine how bad it would be now with all the extra social medias, says that listener there. Does this charge apply to buses as well? Well, I asked that, and John seemed to suggest there was an exemption. A caller says, this is a Donegal lorry tax. How many of the other 25 Free State counties, as they describe it, have to go through the northern 6 counties to travel or do business? Only 6 miles of Donegal touches the Free State, so Donegal export business is disadvantaged. Brilliant idea, a tax that targets Donegal. It's amazing how quiet our politicians are, but should we have to do as we're told? Get a big sign up in Lifford, Slan from Donegal. Okay, yeah, I mean, it can feel like that given our geographical position. Our government, after giving 10 million to nursing in Northern Ireland and millions to another service last week, and they sit back and do nothing for these drivers, what's going on? Greg, about the ploughing, it's all about the government controlling us, but we need cash. More people should use cash. If it's only a card, we as a family won't be doing it this year or won't be going this year. Well, you see, I mean, it's not the government's fault. This is a private organisation that have decided to make this decision themselves. Like, people blame the government for an awful lot of stuff, but a lot of it is private business organisations, independent organisations making these decisions themselves for their own reason. In fact, in fairness to the government, it's the government that's introducing or has introduced a strategy to establish cash as in its rightful place as a legal tender, to ensure there's a minimum number of ATMs and so on and so forth. That's a government initiative. This is the ploughing that's done this. So listen, I'm all for criticising the government where possible, and you could argue maybe they're doing enough, but it is they that are working through some protocols or whatever you might call them to enshrine cash and its future use. It's the GEA, which is independent. It is the Ploughing Championship. It's the Three Arena, all independent organisations that are making those decisions themselves. Find it hard to believe, Greg, that you're not aware of the protest in Balbriggan, especially as the position you hold in the media. My mother in her late 80s and is aware of them. Do you not research things, or is it just the blind eye? Again, though, the original message was that there are refugees protesting in Balbriggan. Is that what it was? That's what the first text read like. Am I aware of it? No. Am I across social media? Yes. Is it possible I'm not following the accounts that might share that video? Yeah, it is likely. But thanks for your review nonetheless. All right, let's take a break.
Get quality cuts for quality value at Lidl. Like our Board B approved Irish strip loin steak was $3.99, now $3.49. Sweeten the deal with this honeydew melon was $2.29, now 99 cents. Get ahead with Budweiser 15 pack, now $15.27. Go on, shop without compromise. Go full Lidl today. Get the facts by Drinkaware. Visit drinkaware.ie.
Thinking of changing your floors? Why not see what Florid Letterkenny has to offer? Florid have a large selection of solid, semi-solid and laminate click vinyl wood flooring, together with a fantastic choice of parquet, herringbone flooring, all at incredible value. Don't delay. Call Florid today on 087 161 7008.
Now is the time. Explore the current 232 offers at Connolly's Volkswagen Letterkenny. Register your new Volkswagen before July 31st and avail of 0% finance on the fully electric ID4 and ID5. €1,500 booster on the T-Roc Life SUV, or a €3,500 booster on your SEAI Grant for the fully electric E-Up. Inquire today with our team on 074 9122 333 or see Connolly's.ie for more information. Terms and conditions apply. Finance provided by way of hire purchase agreement from Volkswagen Financial Services Ireland Limited and is subject to lender criteria. Volkswagen Financial Services Ireland Limited is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Now, new legislation comes into effect today as part of the government's action plan for insurance reform. The law aims to rebalance the duty of care between occupiers such as businesses, community groups and organisers of events and visitors, recreational users and trespassers. Brian Hanley, CEO of Alliance for Insurance Reform, he joins us now. Is this, Brian, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Is this reform in the way the Alliance would like to see?
Yes, we very much welcome the commencement of the legislation and see it as a common sense and proportionate rebalancing of the duty of care between occupiers and those that attend their premises and the members of the public that do. As you've alluded to already, it stands to make a difference to right across society, from small businesses to community and voluntary groups and charities to sporting organisations. The changes in the legislation itself, I think there are three particular areas of note. The first being that it essentially requires people coming onto another person's property to exercise a reasonable degree of care for their own safety. You know, that the onus is on them to be responsible for their own actions. It doesn't do away with a duty of the occupier if there's a hazard on their premises and they're reckless about it. But what it does say is it asks people to take a degree of personal responsibility for their actions. The second area that it addresses is the legislation further restricts the circumstances in which trespassers may pursue a successful claim. And the third area is what we call the voluntary assumption of risk. And basically what this means is that where people want to undertake a pastime or an activity that might have a slightly higher degree of risk than otherwise, if they do so knowingly and then something were to happen through an accident and no fault of anybody else's, well, it doesn't make sense that, or wouldn't be fair for them to go and to take a claim. The example I give there might be in the context of a five-a-side soccer match. So if I went out this evening and assuming the pitch and the conditions and everything are fine, there's always a risk that I'm going to injure myself making a tackle this evening. And I don't think anyone would suggest it's fair or reasonable that then I would stand to take a claim against the business owner because I mistimed a tackle and was unfortunate enough to hurt myself.
But will the proof of the pudding not really be then as through time as we see what claims come forward, how they're treated, how the courts might treat them? Like, that's really where precedent will be set. So that remains to be seen, I presume. I could be wrong, Brian.
Two aspects on that. Absolutely right. I mean, what's needed now is a whole of society effort here to get behind the changes and what they stand for. And that's very much part of our own Enough is Enough campaign, that really there needs to be an end to these unjustifiable claims. But then how they're interpreted and dealt with by all the stakeholders that deal with these types of claims will be really important. It's but to say, I think as well, that we have to wait a period of years probably wouldn't be wholly accurate either, because arguably a significant element in determining premiums, insurance premiums, has to do with the likelihood of claims being made against businesses. Well, as of the commencement today, the risk profile for those organisations has now changed considerably. And that ought to be borne out immediately in the liability premiums that organisations are now looking for. And if it's not, I think serious questions would have to be asked of government and indeed of the insurance companies themselves.
They'll have to be seen to be acting, in other words. Okay. So, and there are certain areas that it's more difficult to get insurance. There are a limited number of players in those markets, or not at all. Often it would be coming from Britain or elsewhere. Do you think that maybe insurance companies might look at the Irish market now and say, right, okay, maybe we can, make a few quid in that market, and maybe more competition or certain areas that are currently struggling to get insurance might into the future?
Oh, I think the insurance market in Ireland is a much more attractive place with the passage of this legislation, but also, or the commencement of it, but also from the other reforms that have taken place in recent years. So, for example, the Book of Quantum was replaced by the judicial guidelines, which are much more specific and targeted in the amounts of awards. And the awards, there's less scope and variation, so they're more targeted, and the amount of compensation that's awarded better reflects injuries and has come down overall as a global percentage. The number of claims that go through year on year, and various reports in the Central Bank and Personal Injuries Assessment Board show in many instances the number of claims are down in excess of 40% in some categories. And lastly then, there have been the Garda Insurance Fraud Unit was established. So there's really been a whole of society approach to addressing it. And I would suggest the market is a much more attractive one for insurance companies. This is something we have spoken to Minister Carol McNeill about. And I know that the IDA have been tasked with attracting additional competition to the market. This is particularly needed in the area of public liability insurance, less so in motor.
I know. You said that insurance companies should react immediately, but you, in your own press release, state the new legislation will only work if it's implemented in the spirit it was intended by the judiciary, insurers, the legal profession, and ultimately by the Irish public. So, insurance companies can be hard to change their mindsets. They are going, you might not want them to, but they are going to wait to see how this plays out, because I presume they set their, do they not set their charges on past claims rather than, future risk?
So, absolutely. So there's a mix of reasons that are often put forward one over the other. And if you look and you give an example of past claims and so on, that's why we're really looking at the whole area of unjustifiable claims, because I spoke to somebody last week and they had a claim hanging over their business for 9 years. 9 years. They
had similar calls here, yeah.
And premiums, only for the case to be dismissed the minute it went to court or was put in front of a body. And it's those types of claims that are hanging over excessively for years. And that's why, again, solutions such as PIAB are really welcome, because they provide for more prompt address of compensation where it's appropriate and necessary.
Yeah, and we have heard the cases. I don't know how rare they are or not, but they certainly grab the headlines where someone breaks into someone else's premises and then ends up being compensated. I don't think there's a person in the country, other than the person that might be inclined to break in and seek compensation, that thinks that makes any sense whatsoever. It's hard to believe it took to 2023 for us to address that issue.
Yeah, and it's very welcome that it has. The legislation does address that, and liability will not now be imposed on an occupier if the injured person committed the offence on the premises, unless a court determines otherwise. So they really have tightened that whole area up. And as you said yourself, I think that's something that will be welcomed by the vast majority of people.
Okay, I would love to think that as of tomorrow, everyone's premiums right across the country would start tumbling. I'm not sure that might be the case, but at least now there's tougher questions can be asked into the future if it's not the case, and as to why not. Brian, thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate it. And it's important we keep asking those questions. Thanks very much.
For sure, definitely. Brian Hanley, CEO of Alliance for Insurance Reform. So we shall see what impact that might make. A caller says, as it relates to that £10 sterling levy, isn't this the reason some local companies moved their companies into Derry? I know for a fact at least some did, yes, for sure. Aquila says, I agree fully with Mark McSharry. Okay, very good. Another, and Vera Pau is unfair. A restrained adjective. She should at least stop Amber today. After all, they would not be at the World Cup had it not been for Amber's goal. I hope her contract is not renewed. Well, Amber did feature in the last game, albeit thrown in a way that probably she couldn't have the impact she would have otherwise had. But I suppose the team maybe too has to be set up a certain way to best maximise Amber's talents if she's starting in an advanced position. But we shall see. Who's to say what might come, what stories might come from Australia down the line. Kevin in Dunlow. Here's another DL connection with the Dublin manager. Desi Farrell's mother, as far as I know, Ballyshannon. All right, okay. Including Michael Dara McCauley, Letcher. Sadly, Clifford didn't climb to his potential being marked by Marion's cousin, I believe. Maybe Oisin knows the rest of the connections, but I suppose a lot of people went to Dublin for work and ended up raising a family there indeed. Of course, it was a form of internal migration that would have happened. Right, we're heading into the next hour of the programme after the news. We're going to take a quick break first. Brendan Devaney is going to be joining us with a look forward to what's coming up on this weekend's DL Debate, or this evening's DL Debate.
Eating out later? Sister Sarah's mouth-watering menu is packed with tempting dishes and all-time favourites. Whether it's a special occasion or a private function, their party options and buffet choices have got you covered. Book now on 912238. Sister Sarah's, serving food you love until 9 p.m. every day.
Hi, it's Claire here from Claire Clothing. Our summer sale has started. I have loads of discounts off dresses, tops, trousers, all of the summer stock. So we'll see you at our summer sale in Claire Clothing, Main Street, Letterkenny.
Backed by popular demand, the Murder Express arrives at Oakfield Park this August. The year is 1891 and the Borlotti Brothers Carnival is on tour across Europe. The next stop is Oakfield, 20 years on from the last visit. But there's missing jewels, mistaken identity and of course a brutal killing. Enjoy a theatrical dining experience, a train ride and immersive theatre where you get to interrogate key suspects in a bid to uncover the truth. Followed by a delicious banquet with wine, a full bar and music. Book a place now on the 11th or 12th of August for the Murder Express at oakfieldpark.com.
Text or WhatsApp your view to Greg on 086 60 25,000.
Okay, it is 11 o'clock on the button. It's time for a news update. Good morning once again, Donna Marie Doherty.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. Police are currently at the scene of a 3-vehicle road traffic collision on the Beltany Road in Omagh. Motorists are advised to avoid the road as extreme traffic delays are ongoing. Tailbacks are reported as far back as Newton Cunningham. A £10 levy per truck to be paid by haulage firms to cross the border into Northern Ireland is to be reinstated tomorrow. The heavy goods vehicle levy is applicable to lorries that are not registered in the UK and weigh over 12 tonnes. Should the levy be failed to be paid, a £300 on-the-spot fine is issued and the vehicle is seized. Parents of the Twin Towns areas are warned of an apparent incident involving 2 children being beckoned into a car. The Finn Valley Centre shared a post telling of what is believed to be 3 men engaging with children in the car park. In a statement, Gardaí say while they responded to reports of a suspicious approach, no offences were disclosed. Current and planned industrial action by pilots at Emerald Airlines has been suspended. The airline operates a Dublin-Donegal route often used for those travelling to avail of cancer treatment plans. There are fears growing among patients with the Donegal cancer flights and services regarding flight availability. And finally, further steps to reform the insurance industry are now in place. The Justice Minister is starting updated duty of care legislation today. It will try and strike a balance between ensuring businesses, community groups and organisers of events fulfil their duty of care responsibilities. Those are the latest headlines. The next news update is at 12 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
Thanks, Donna Marie. We'll be back with more. I pulled my own mic down. We'll be back with more after the break.
Hi, I'm Mary.
I'm Daniel.
Siobhan.
Guess where I like to shop?
Bet it's Aldi. I just like how much I can get for my money.
You can feed the family for great value at Aldi.
And I like the specially selected range.
Like Ireland's first ever Diamond Taste Award winner, specially selected dry-aged Black Angus ribeye steak.
It's quality.
So if you like great value and award-winning Irish steaks, it's got to be Aldi, Ireland's most reputable supermarket.
You're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show. And we have in studio with us, by the way, the game's just kicked off in Australia, Ireland versus Nigeria, just over a minute in. Nothing of interest to report at this point. But anyway, our focus now is GAA. Brendan Devaney, presenter of the Jail Debate. What's coming up on the show this week?
What about you? Listen, we have to talk about the big one anyway, the All-Ireland final.
What did you make of it?
I suppose it was absorbing without ever being totally the game we wanted. Listen, all us neutrals in particular were thinking, by far the best two sides in the country, and the build up to it all season. And it was a funny season, I suppose, with the new group phases and the new format and the way the calendar, where it was pulled forward in the calendar. And neither Dublin or Kerry were that brilliant all year. They had funny enough leagues, even though Dublin went up, they had some poor performances at it. Into the group stages, and again didn't set the world alight, but they came good then, particularly in the quarters. Both of them had probably their best game and were pushed all the way in their semi-finals, so they had a very almost like for like season going into this final. So with the forwards were on display, I had a feeling in my gut, just Greg, that both defences had so much fear of the forward lines. They were going to sit and counter-attacking. A few times it kind of looked like something you might see in Clonus, but I thought it would open more up in the second half, but it got very tense in the second half, so it was still unbelievably interesting and absorbing without ever being anything you would call a classic.
Yeah, exactly. And you could make analogies with other sports. It's not the best game ever, but there was enough in there to hold your attention. What do you think the difference was?
I just felt good. And Greg, we were doing a few podcasts and shows, and funny, I was talking a bit about the likes of Mannion, particularly. He had some game yesterday. I just felt with last year, like being at the semi-finals and seeing how close the two teams were, and then Dublin, of course, Pat Gilroy comes back and he seems to be this magician in the background, not to get anything away from Dessie Farrell, but he seems to knit everything together. There seems such word about him, his influence over everything. He got the All-Ireland runs, started for Dublin, steadied the ship, and brought probably the start of this thing that Jim Gavin took up on. So him coming back in, and then I think he brought together Cluxton, Mannion, McCaffrey, got these guys back. Of course, last season Con O'Callaghan and Bas Gill were injured. So in the build up to this game, I was thinking, there's 5 players that are going to have a huge impact in this game. Kerry don't have this extra players in. So I thought if it gets down to nitty gritty, but that's it. Kerry led by 3 points twice in the second half. I think the small goal was massive, and obviously Con hit the crossbar before that, but the goal was lucky, fortuitous enough. But that goal, even though Kerry responded to it, you heard Jack O'Connor talk after, but the effort, because you tend to have, you'll have a spell, they have a spell, so Kerry put so much in to go back into the lead. I felt when it got close in, I thought there was only been one winner, and that's Sid Clifford, who, by his own standards, wasn't on top of his normal scoring game. He had that chance to equalise. That goes over, and I think it's a draw game. But as it was, it went wide, and Dublin went up and got the second point, and the unbelievable nature of Cluxton and McCarthy and Fitzsimons winning 9 All-Irelands.
Much speculation over their futures now. I think if you got 9, you'd want to round it off, wouldn't you?
Listen,
I don't think I could jack it in at 9. Not that I'll ever get have that decision.
Yeah,
but
there's a magic this with the 10, isn't it? We often hear about Rangers and Celtic and the 10 in a row.
Yeah, I mean, you can get a shirt with 10 on the back. It just 9 just doesn't look quite as good.
It's a funny thing that Fitzsimons threw that back last night, the question that it wasn't the right time and that. But listen, Johan Campbell, I think, had to kind of ask the question. Of course, no sign of Cluxton. He was way down the back somewhere, and he's a very nice fella. When you talk to him, you couldn't meet a nicer lad. He just, whatever it is, he's put up this blank to meet him. Maybe he'll surprise us and land on the Sunday game now when he retires. But I think of all people, Cluxton. Listen, I suppose there's 2 ways of looking at it. He's a goalkeeper, so he doesn't come out the pitch really like the other players. But again, him yesterday, his couple of kicks, his assurity was unbelievable. Listen, there's nothing to stop him physically playing. It's just if he wants to. The other 2 lads as well, it's not as if they both had great games. Probably McCarthy was a wee bit loose in possession. The wet day yesterday I think played a big factor, Rig, in terms of turnovers.
It did,
You seen in tight areas, sometimes players were to go inside, and just that wee bit of wet ball meant it was tapped away. So there was a lot of that going on in the back.
Oisín was full of praise for the ref letting the game flow, letting a bit of physicality pass. He says that, that's the way the game should be played. What's your feelings on that? Because then again, a lot of people thinking, the ref should have done this and then this would have happened and that would have happened. I'm not really sure that it really works like that, because there are so many variables, even if a decision is made, like maybe given a penalty or something. But anyway, what do you think about the way the game was reffed?
Yeah, gosh,
happy enough?
I suppose it's difficult again because of the wet day and people are slip sliding, and then when you see the tackle in slow motion, say when somebody their head's down and then they get caught on the chin, when you see it back, you're like, whoa. And a few times in, maybe players are kind of sliding. Did they mean it? Did they not? I thought the early tackle on Ryan in the Kerry goal, I thought that was a definite yellow at least. The player did look at the keeper. The key is that if he's jumping the ball and he had some accidental, but he definitely did take a look and then went under him. There seemed to be, seeing Ryan picked up a few knocks early on.
It would be interested in the coverage, and I think it's kind of been tried now and again, but not even actually a camera on the ref, but for the presenters, the commentators, to put it in context of, like, we're watching this from 4 or 5 angles and remind people this is what the ref saw. Do you know what I mean? Because as you say, it's like that in a moment the ref can't see it. Okay.
And you imagine the 2,000 people shouting down at you, and particularly if it comes down to a decision. I mean, the last 3 was going 2 up, and at that stage you're kind of thinking a ref's not going to maybe give a free, because everyone's feeling the word, do Kerry deserve a draw in the game? Listen, they maybe did, you could make a case for it, but listen, he gives the call, and at the end of the day, that's where refs have to be strong. No matter what the score is or what the background noise is, you gotta go with your gutness, and Goff's, I suppose, vastly experienced in that.
Yeah, so you're joined by Kerry legend Mike Frank Russell, GEA columnist with the Irish News, Cahir O'Kane too. So 2 great lads to talk that through with. Former county hurling star Eugene Organ's on the show.
Yeah, indeed. Well. The hurling championships were running around the group stages, and Unions had a big one at the weekend against Buncrana. They have a great, very interesting game with Burt coming up. McCool's had a victory over Carndonna. There was a few round robin games, and Carndonna edged out Dunlow by a point in another, and as I say, Satanta are still the standard bearers. You have maybe Unions and Burt tucked in after that. Maybe I think that's kind of how it's seen, but it'll be interesting to get Eugene's views on it and round it all up and get his expertise, Greg, because I was listening to one of your comments come in there about a guy saying you missed some protest in Dublin. I was laughing to myself. I have enough bother keeping up with GA stories. You have literally every local and national story, and some guys highlighting something that you missed. I was like, God. But listen, I don't know how you do it.
What's important to each individual is probably far more important to him than another issue might be to someone else, but that's fine. It all is part of the game. Right, okay, so great guests, great presenter too. You can listen to the Deal debate in association with Sarah's Kitchen at Sister Sarah's, Letterkenny, live after 7 this evening after the news, or to podcast at your leisure, as they say in America, on highlandradio.com. Do you have a good weekend, by the way?
Great weekend.
What do you think of the weather in July?
Oh,
Any
I know. I was texting one of my buddies. He's back there in Downings. My wee buddy Kieran Green, and I was saying, listen, we'd probably need to go on a wee trip somewhere, because it's not just going to happen at the beach for us now. It's still a good enough weekend. Listen, I'm hopping off piers and going out for spins and that. I mean, what's the point? I mean, you may as well still hit the sea and try and take some enjoyment out of it. But
100%.
It's a bit bloody miserable.
But tough July. All right, let's roll on August. Okay, listen, Brendan, look forward to hearing the show tonight. Brendan Devaney there, Deal debate live after 7. So stay tuned for that. Okay. A caller says, by the way, it's 9 minutes gone in the World Cup. Ireland 0, Nigeria 0. Ireland seem to have more of the possession. I'm not really watching it because I'm focused on what Brendan's saying, but Ireland certainly enjoy more of the possession early on from the side of my eye. There's actually one effort just wide from Ireland, a shot from the edge of the box. This caller says, I've enjoyed the World Cup, although the standard of football has been lower with flashes of excellence like Colombia's first goal yesterday. Plus, I must say, a lot more entertaining than Premier League soccer, with its overprayed wailing babies and actors rolling around after the slightest tackle. Like watching paint dry. Well done to the ladies for bringing the game here from out of the shadows. Now the All-Ireland final had it all. Skill, luck, hard tackling and entertainment, sportsmanship. Now that is what I call a sport indeed. Okay, good assessment to both. Thank you for that. Let me see. More coming in here. HG levy applies to all UK registered as well as visiting lorries. It started in 2013 but was suspended during COVID. Similar environmental tariffs and charges are in place like in Belgium and Germany. Seems unfair to Donegal lorries who've no choice, but certainly doesn't target them. Has no direct relationship to any Irish government support for Northern Ireland infrastructure. It might not be direct, but I think you can understand how someone in the business facing a £12,000 sterling bill might sort of go, well, that's where my taxpayers' money's going. Greg, I think your texter is confusing the delivery drivers who did a protest in Dublin yesterday over the attacks on them and the stealing of their bikes. Right, I know exactly what you're on about. You're on about the delivery drivers. It just so happened many of them were non-national. Pity those complaining wouldn't get the right end of the story before automatically blaming non-nationals. Yes, indeed, I know... Exactly. I am very familiar with that protest now. As I say, it just happens they do work in the food delivery business and had been concerned about, the amount of money they're getting because it's the type of economy that it is, and also the fact that they were going into places and feeling threatened and unsafe. So now that you explain it, I do know exactly what you're talking about. Thank you for that. I do appreciate the help. We get there in the end, don't we?
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
Want to live a more sustainable lifestyle, but not too sure how to start? Join me, Donna Marie Doherty, every Tuesday at 12:30 for It's Ours to Protect to learn all the tips and tricks. Ours to Protect is funded by Commission Naman with a television licence fee and is a partnership between Highland Radio and the Independent Broadcasters of Ireland. Check out ourstoprotect.ie for more info.
Hi, I'm Mary.
I'm Daniel.
Siobhan. Guess where I like to shop?
Bet it's Aldi.
I just like how much I can get for my money.
You can feed the family for great value at Aldi.
And I like the specially selected range.
Like Ireland's first ever Diamond Taste Award winner, specially selected dry-aged Black Angus ribeye steak.
It's quality.
So if you like great value and award-winning Irish steaks, it's got to be Aldi, Ireland's most reputable supermarket.
Now is the time. Explore the current 232 offers at Connolly's Volkswagen Letterkenny. Register your new Volkswagen before July 31st and avail of 0% finance on the fully electric ID4 and ID5. €1,500 booster on the T-Roc Life SUV or a €3,500 booster on your SEAI Grant for the fully electric E-Up. Inquire today with our team on 074 9122 333 or see connellys.ie for more information. Terms and conditions apply. Finance provided by way of hire purchase agreement from Volkswagen Financial Services Ireland Limited and is subject to lender criteria. Volkswagen Financial Services Ireland Limited is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
Time is just turning 11:15. Now, there's no doubt there is some crazy parking around Donegal. And it seems to generally go unpunished, unless it's you and you happen to maybe pull on a double yellow line for 30 seconds and next thing you know, you have a ticket or something. But parking in other areas seems to, people can park whichever way they like and it doesn't seem to matter. Donegal town suffers with this. The key, you know, if you're familiar with the town down there, there's limited parking on the Diamond. The main park is the car park. There's a couple of them, but the key, and it's always tight for spaces. But people are abusing those spaces, and there's a picture which paints 1,000 words of a very nice big camper van, but it's across at least 4 parking spaces. Paul O'Sullivan took the picture. It's frustrating, Paul, isn't it?
Good morning, Greg. And only to water the hanging baskets today where I am.
I don't need that at all.
I took that photo yesterday. I presume you were aware that there was a big regatta there yesterday. The Donegal Dragons were having their annual regatta there. So parking was restricted there, particularly at the head of the pier yesterday. So I popped down just to say the event was going ahead. It had been deferred from Saturday. So I saw this monstrosity of yoke, and what really caught my eye was the fact, apart from the fact that it parked around 4, although I think it was actually 5 if you really look at it closely. It was a big sign in the back, right across the width of the back of the camper van, "I do not comply."
Wow.
Now, I think that particularly got up a lot of people's goats, because clearly they don't comply and they don't care. And in fairness, as I said on my post, the majority of camper vans do comply and are quite respectful people, and I think the majority of people in Donegal town probably would welcome them. However, it needs to be controlled, and I think that's the problem, that the key area in Donegal town is just open season, and some mornings there, particularly the weekends, and especially for the country music weekends and the weekend that's coming up, the bank holiday weekend, you could have 35, 36 camper vans on that pier. Now, they are bringing business to the town, but there's no facilities for them. There's no public toilets. Where is the grey water going? I did contact the owner of a registered and proper camper van site, Spearstown, which is outside Donegal town near Clare Chapel, and he does not get any camper vans coming to him to empty their chemical toilet waste.
Yeah.
So
and it is right beside the sea, so it would make you wonder. We can't make that accusation, but it would make you wonder.
Well, I don't know. As I said, I don't know. There is some evidence that yes, they probably are. A lot of the grey water is going into the storm.
Now, look, I mean, there is a camper van community and camper van forums and websites and what have you. So it's clear that the quay down in Donegal town has been flagged as a great place to stop. It's central, so you can pull in. There's no charges, and you can access all the brilliant pubs and restaurants and what have you. And as you say, there is a dividend from that. But I mean, the amount that you're talking of that is displacing other traffic. You know yourself, people travelling from Strabane, Letterkenny, Gweedore to the country nights or whatever it might be. Is there something that needs to be done here? I'm not sure what the rules are in terms of overnight parking. This is what it is. You'll often see signs on car parks saying no overnight parking. Is there a level of enforcement that needs to be put in here? Is there a revenue stream that needs to be tapped into? Because that business you talk of out the road, they're paying their water rates, their commercial rates and all that type of stuff. You know what I mean? It's not really
public
fair
indemnity,
on them.
insurance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And in fairness to him, it is outside the town. It's probably not near as convenient as the quay is. But the owner of that site, Joe Quinn, stepped this up on his own, and he actually provides a taxi service free of charge and into the town, and not maybe all the time back from the town, but it's only a short taxi ride out. However, to go back to your point there, yes, clearly there is a revenue stream that's been missed by the council now, and there is, I don't know if you're aware, but there is a master plan that includes the Diamond in Donegal town, and I believe that's starting in September. That also includes the pier area. Now, there isn't much emphasis on that. I don't know where that pier area master plan is. I was trying to get in contact with somebody in the council this morning and off the record, but I couldn't get that. But there is a plan, and to go back to planning permission that was granted in 2019 to the Donegal Bay Rowing Club, they had a plan approved by the council for a maritime centre. Now, I don't know where that's at the minute. I did talk to Seamus Maguire this morning. He seems to think that it's on hold pending a wider and possibly better, I don't know, centre that the council are going to provide. But that would be a great asset for the pier.
I mean, there was
vibrant.
Of course it would. It'd be a good asset for the community as well, because you can't leave the community behind in this. And there was a recent, I think it was last year or the year before, where the council had a public consultation on camper vans, and the whole idea of that is that to recognise that we want people to visit the area, to recognise that we need to offer facilities and maybe business opportunities, but also to recognise that there are other businesses and there are the locals as well that also need to be accommodated. And what happens, it seems to be happening more often than not, is that people are coming down to that part of the quay, which is a beautiful place to pull in, I'm sure, but it's like it is a public, open, free area for them to do whatever they want, and that's certainly not in the spirit of that public consultation that went out last year or the year before.
Yeah, I do know that Paul Doherty architects were involved in it. As I said, I don't know where it's actually at the minute, where it's at consultation stage or whether there's been agreement among the councillors. I really just don't know, and maybe if somebody does know, they might want to come on and you might want to follow that up.
A bit better, because as I say, I mean, no one wants to be the person that comes across like a spoil sport, and I'm not saying you are, Paul, and we do, both of us recognise there are bigger issues, but if you tried to go down there and open a coffee van, you wouldn't be long being shifted. Do you know what I mean? or something. Do you know?
Correct.
So all we want is fairness, and everyone accommodated fairly. So that's recognising the contribution that these guys make, but also recognising the other businesses and other challenges as well. As I say, if you were parked odd ways on the Diamond, you wouldn't be long getting a ticket on certain days. So it's just to level the playing field. All right, Paul. The weather hasn't been great, has it? But what's the buzz around the town?
Well, it's the last day of July. So please God,
roll on August.
Roll on August. Roll on the bank holiday weekend in the sun.
Yeah, all right, good stuff.
Crossed.
All right, Paul, take care of yourself. Greg. Thanks for your time. I appreciate you taking the call this morning. Padder joins us now. Hi, Padder.
How you doing, Greg?
What's your experience? You and your wife's experience?
We were about back in May. I think it was around the 27th of May. We had exactly the same experience that Paul just mentioned there, except this time the camper van was parked straight across two disabled parking spaces.
Wow.
And it didn't even have, we checked, we even took a photograph the same way and we put it up on Facebook and everything. And we checked that it didn't have its parking card or nothing. And they took up the whole two of the disabled parking spaces just there at the path going down to the pier.
Yeah, and as you know yourself, Padder, if you're familiar with the town, up until very recently on the Diamond, there was only one solitary bay for a person with parking with a disability. I think it might have been extended to two now. So those spaces central to the town are at a premium. So that makes those two that you talk of just down even more important.
That's precisely, that's right, Greg. It's ridiculous, like, and if anybody came, any disabled people came there, like, they had nowhere to park because all the other spaces were taken up too, like, and it was ridiculous that they took up two of the parking spaces.
I think unless people were in your position, Padder, you and your wife's position, they wouldn't realise how frustrating it is to see that. I mean, it's a real slap in the teeth, isn't it? Those parking spaces are there for a very good reason.
Yeah, that's right. And my wife put it, like I said to you, she put it up on Facebook, like, and she's the wheelchair user. I think you've talked to her before, and Love.
I know.
Because I think she's been on with you before about disability issues. But we put it up, and some people actually came back, and there was one comment. One lady came back with her own name. But she said, but she says they're good for the town. She says they're good for bringing money in, like, and she says you have to just live and let live.
No, well, if that's someone coming from a position perhaps that doesn't need a parking space because they've got a disability. I don't listen. I mean, I get where she may be coming from, but look, that's ridiculous. There's
I think now that was a bit uncalled for.
Okay, Padder. Yeah, go ahead. Make your point, Padder.
No, it's just saying, Greg. Like, I just wish people would be a little bit more considerate.
Yeah.
To parking, because there's not enough parking spaces anyway, like, for people with disability.
No.
And I just wish people would think before they park up somewhere.
Yeah, and I think particularly Donegal Town has its particular challenges for people, not just actually parking, but getting around the town as well, between sandwich boards and stuff. Okay.
That's right. That's another thing too. Like, a lot of these notice boards out on the footpaths and everything, making things that bit more difficult.
And you're afraid to say anything because you don't want to come across as anti-business, but there's on-street furniture as well, and the steps are quite high on the crossings, if I'm not mistaken, as well, Padder, in the town, in Donegal Town, that is.
That's right. That's right. But
well, there was a few councillors back in the day, I don't know how long ago it is now, 4 or 5 years, were invited to, and in fairness accepted the invite to try and get round Donegal Town in wheelchairs.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's changed after that, but it gave them an insight into what it's like. Padder, pass on my best wishes. Pass on my best wishes to Anne. Thanks for helping us raise the issue.
I will do.
Take care of yourself.
I will do indeed.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a million, Greg.
Right,
thanks for your time.
No problem. Thank you so much indeed. 08660 25,000. We were talking about phubbing. This is being ignored because your other half's on their phone. I totally agree. My girlfriend is so busy on her phone at night, the conversation is dead. Even when we go out to eat, I have to fight and say, put the phone away at the table. I see a lot of it in restaurants where couples sit across from one another, not talking, but both on their phones. It's very sad, they say. Have you ever mentioned it to her, and how did that go down? Hi, my husband reconnected with an old school friend through social media last year and was planning a future with her. When I discovered what was going on, he ended the marriage, moved out. He's waiting on her to leave her husband. Wow, unbelievable. So this person's husband just randomly met up with an old school friend, then went on to message, presumably, to plan her future, has left the marriage and is waiting on her to leave her husband. Well, listen, I know it might not feel like now, but that's a bullet dodged for you. I hope you get through that okay. That's a horrible story. I'm sorry you're going through that.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
Big Band Country Nights continue at Lokes of Cranford this Tuesday with Robert Mazzell and his band. That's another Big Band Country Night this Tuesday with Robert Mazzell at Lokes of Cranford, where you will also find music in the Wee Bar on Saturdays and old-time dancing on Sundays.
Usually, a radio ad is recorded in a recording studio. Today, I'm phoning this one in on my run. But I didn't want to carry my phone. So for the first time, I'm calling for my smartwatch. Because only Vodafone's one number lets me share my mobile plan and number with my smartwatch. So I can stay connected everywhere, even without a phone.
This is one number, only with Vodafone.
Available to customers on a 12 or 24-month Red Unlimited plan. Eligibility, limitations and terms apply. See vodafone.ie/terms.
Attention all local businesses and advertisers. Are you ready to take your brand to new heights? Introducing Highland Radio's digital packages, your one-stop solution for maximum exposure.
Picture this. Stunning, high-quality videos showcasing your products or services, reaching thousands of potential customers on Highland Radio's popular social media channels. Not only that, your brand can shine on highlandradio.com with our web advertising. We've got the audience, reach and expertise to help your brand grow.
Dominate the digital landscape with Highland Radio's expert team by your side. Call us on 074 9125 322 or email advertising at highlandradio.com for more information.
Yeah, indeed, the online space, it's great to get an opportunity to go into that. Maybe your business isn't in that space and there's great growth opportunities for you. We've got a world of expertise here to help you in that space effectively, is what they're saying. So if you want some help with your online stuff, 07491 25,000, ask for the sales team. It's 28 minutes into the Ireland versus Nigeria game and it remains a 0-0. Kate Shaw, World Vision International Senior Communication Advisor, joins us now. Good morning, Kate.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me.
Good to have you on the show. And you're also an author of a new report, The High Price of Beauty, and it examines the use of child labour in the beauty industry. So give us an idea of what's going on, because this is, I don't know, they say ignorance is bliss. I think this will be news to, for the first time to people today. And sometimes we try and avoid this news because it's unpalatable, but yet here we are. We're talking about it. So what can typically go on?
Yeah, absolutely. So child labour is actually a really common issue. It affects 1 in 10 children worldwide. And so children are giving up their educations, they're missing school, they're being exposed to harmful situations. In some cases, they're even dying trying to produce either agricultural or mined ingredients that go into common cosmetics. So things like cocoa butter or the vanilla that scents our creams and makes them nice, the copper peptide serums that keep us looking young. All of those things could have some child labour in them.
Yeah, and when we talk about child labour, like what age are we talking of, or what age range might be a better question? What kind of hours? Is this instead of an education, for an example? So, paint a clearer picture as to when we talk about child labour, what that means for the life of the child.
So for different products and for different children, it'll mean different things. But I met children as young as 7 or 9 who are guarding vanilla gardens late at night in Uganda because there's a really high risk of theft. And so for them, that means that they're in danger from thieves. They were a couple who have had nightmares since they got attacked by some thieves who came up one night wielding machetes. More commonly, they might be missing school during the pollination season. So a couple months a year, they're not there. And so typically these children might eventually graduate from primary, but they're doing it around the age of 17, 18. They're not graduating with their normal age range. In mining, you get children as young as 5 who are doing the sorting and the washing in a mine, so they're exposed to all those harmful chemicals. Once they're old enough, they might be going into informal tunnels that haven't been dug properly, and those tunnels unfortunately collapse quite often, so children end up dying or with life-changing injuries.
So people might choose their products because they claim to be cruelty-free or not tested on animals and what have you, and they think they're doing their bit and might even actually, in some cases, be paying a premium to help them sleep at night. Yet at the same time, these same products could be being applied off the backs of children.
Yeah, absolutely. So the cruelty-free mark is great. That means that there's no testing on animals, but it doesn't give any kind of indication over whether or not children have been involved in the production of the ingredients. So one thing that World Vision is asking for with this campaign is for consumers to really turn around and ask their governments to improve transparency legislation that requires companies to be clear about how they're sourcing, and also to ask the companies that you buy products from. So I'm one of these consumers, and I'm sure some of this is in my creams and things that I put on my face, but turning around and asking them, how certain are you that these supply chains are clean, and what can you do to improve it? Because World Vision works in a lot of these communities. We improve access to schools and help families earn more money, the kinds of things that help address the push factors into child.
That being said, I mean, obviously it's unimaginable that this might happen in Ireland or Britain or France, for an example. But is it more palatable in other countries? I can't believe I'm making a counter argument to this, but it's for the purpose of the conversation, i.e. that as unimaginable as it might be a 7 or 9 or a 12-year-old is out doing this, that they might be one of the important breadwinners for a family. Do you know what I mean? So in other words, just simply stopping this might be doing them more harm than good. Now, you talked of awful cases where people die in mines, but I hope you understand the spirit of the question. Like, it's not just simply saying, right, we're not going to derive the product from there now, because that could be creating another problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're definitely not saying to boycott these ingredients, because that'll only further impoverish the families that are trying to earn a living. So I think the main thing would be if the parents are paid a fair price for their vanilla, their cocoa, their mined materials, then they're a lot less likely to have to rely on their children in order to help them produce those. They can hire help to help with the pollination or the spraying and the pesticides and the weeding. They can gather enough palm nuts to earn a living without dragging their children in to help them meet a quota. So if the parents are paid a fair price, that helps eliminate the push factors into child labor. We're definitely not saying there's some kind of evil scheme that's people want to have child labor. They're sort of doing this because they don't have a choice.
But it is accepted as well. I mean, and you could say it's the beauty industry's dirty secret. I mean, are any within that industry saying, here's our product and we can guarantee you that it is not derived, in any way that exploits children? Do you know what I mean? It's very easy for them to say we don't test it on animals and to market that as a positive, right? But are any companies coming out and saying we recognise that this industry exploits children through child labour, and we don't do that by our products?
I haven't heard anyone make that statement.
Yeah, I think that in itself is really quite shocking, because it requires a level of complicity, and it means that people are going, right, okay, we can market this cruelty-free stuff, but don't mention the children, because that's a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, and so things like the Modern Slavery Act in the UK, I don't know the Irish example, I'm sorry, but okay. So things like that are requiring companies to look at their supply chains a bit more. And so I think there's starting to be a bit more attention to this, but I think we really need that consumer push to companies to really make them pay attention to their supply chains and really get to the bottom of it. Because, yeah, like you said, until they look at it and they realize that it's important to the people buying, they're not going to be too focused on it.
And listen, that's the sad thing is that will be the motivational factor. Is this, you work in communications, you know yourself, can we market this? And will that offset maybe an increase in costs?
Absolutely. And it's by cutting out the middlemen too, because a lot of them are cutting out a lot of the profit. And so the families at the end of the chain don't get this protection, and the people in the middle are taking it without a lot of involvement in the process.
So just to recap, across the industry, as far as we know, because no one stands out and says otherwise, what level of content of these products are likely harvest or have some element of child labour in them?
That would be a really hard question to answer. I don't have that data, so I can tell you that.
So what we know is,
30%
of the ingredients in cosmetics are derived from either mined or agricultural commodities. But within that 30%, we don't know how much of that is child exploitation or using child labour. I get you, Kate. Listen, thanks for your time this morning. We do appreciate it. Take care. That's Kate Shaw, World Vision International Senior Communications Advisor, who's not saying, look, boycott the products, but maybe send a message off to your favourite company to say, can you guarantee me that these products aren't being made with produce that involves child labour? Hi, Greg. Any chance of getting a description of the men trying to beckon children into cars in the Finn Valley, saying guards have CCTV and it's easy to use a different car? Well, it was a dark-coloured, this is what is suspected, a dark-coloured Volkswagen Passat, Cavan registered, which was reported as beckoning two children into the car at the Finn Valley Centre car park. 3 young men were in the car and CCTV has been made available to local Gardaí. Now, again, we only got the information that the Gardaí responded to a call, so that doesn't necessarily mean everything was as it appears, and I'm not saying it's not as it appears either. Right. Hi, Greg. I was listening to a lady last week on your show. I'm a foster carer for a child with special needs. I applied for parents' benefit and was refused. I've appealed, but no response whatsoever. And I think if there was better communications, it might make these decisions more understandable. Right. 36 minutes gone. Ireland 0, Nigeria 0. The best of the chances so far, certainly cumulative to Ireland at this stage, but it remains scoreless.
PDO thread lifts and skin boosters, which rejuvenate the skin by improving facial contours, lifting and tightening the jowls, neck, cheeks and eyebrows, are available at Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic, Gweedore. To choose the right aesthetic treatment for you, contact Mary Ferry, your aesthetic practitioner. Also offering fat-dissolving treatments, dermal fillers and laser treatments for all skin conditions. Hair and makeup packages also available. Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic, Gweedore. 07495 325 75.
Did you know that new tertiary degree programmes are now available through Donegal ETB in conjunction with Atlantic Technological University? These unique degree programmes allow students to remain in their local region while studying for a degree. If you're interested in getting a degree in business, lab science, sustainable engineering technologies or general nursing, apply today. CAO points aren't required for this opportunity to explore university education in a flexible learning environment. For more information on how to apply, visit atu.ie/tertiary degrees.
Well, Grace, how are you today?
I'm good. I've just been down to the Made to Measure Fireplaces showroom in Creasla. They have an incredible selection of over 40 colours for kitchen worktops. And guess what? For a limited time, they're offering a 40% discount on any electric fire when you purchase a worktop there.
40%? That's an amazing deal, Grace.
Absolutely. And trust me, if the discount alone doesn't sway you, their huge selection of fireplaces, stoves, wood pellet burners, beams and stone cladding certainly will.
Contact Made to Measure Fireplaces Creasla on 074 91 38 365 on Facebook, Instagram and on mtmfireplaces.ie.
Because that's when we flash the cash to get you in the mood for the big bucks. It's all coming soon, only on Highland Radio.
Highland Radio.
An emailer says, God rest Sinead O'Connor. I remember the 1992, the tearing of the picture of the Pope live on TV. I was living in the US then, and all the negative stuff about her from the media. I remember a quote from Frank Sinatra about it saying, if she was my child, I'd give her a good spanking for doing what she did. He was no angel to be throwing stones at glass houses, quite true. Media didn't want to know of the following good deed back in December 1992. God rest her soul. A hero of mine. So that was singer Sinead O'Connor, subject of criticism recently for tearing up a picture of the Pope. This is an article going back to that time. and for her eccentric behaviour. She donated $750,000 to a California home to charity after watching an appeal for donations to aid Somalia on television. O'Connor, who bought the house in West Hollywood in 1990, and as I say, I'm reading from an old article here, called in on Monday to the ITV This Morning show after a presenter urged viewers to help the starving Somalis. Her offer was accepted immediately, and the house then auctioned off in London in February, and it was worth an awful lot of money at that time, so that was a good deed she did at that time. So much has been played of Sinead O'Connor. We didn't really get a chance to play some music of hers, which we have now. And there was another person she sang with. It's kind of a bit of a strange one, but I really liked it, so I wanted to play it on the show today with Terry Hall, who also passed away recently. And it was a version they did together of Donna's song, All Kinds of Everything.
Snowdrops and daffodils, butterflies and bees, sailboats and fishermen, things of the sea, wishing wells and wedding bells, early morning dew, all kinds of everything remind me of you. Seagulls and aeroplanes, things of the sky, winds that go howling, breezes that sigh, city sights, neon lights, gray skies or blue, all kinds of everything remind me of you. Summertime, wintertime, spring and autumn too, Monday, Tuesday, every day I think of you. Dances, romances, things of the night, sunshine and holidays, postcards to write, budding trees, autumn leaves, snowflake or two, all kinds of everything remind me of you. Summertime, wintertime, spring and autumn too, seasons will never change the way that I love you. Dances, romances, things of the night, sunshine and holidays, postcards to write, budding trees, autumn leaves, a snowflake or two, all kinds of everything remind me of you. All kinds of everything remind me of you.
Oh, that's an interesting collaboration. Terry Hall, you might know him. He was the lead singer of The Specials and Two Tone, Funboy 3 as well. And was an interesting character. He passed away on the 18th of December 2022. He was just 63. And of course, Sinead O'Connor very recently passing away at the age of just 56. And there were calls, actually, some calls came into the show on Friday, but we didn't get to them, that they believed, it was 2 or 3 people, that Sinead O'Connor should receive a state funeral. Right, okay, that was All Kinds of Everything. Donna's song there from Terry Hall and Sinead O'Connor. A caller says, I am a Micah victim. I attended last Monday's meeting at the On Green and Hotel. I felt total empathy for MAG representative Lisa Hone having to arm herself with all the knowledge to single-handedly answer all the questions that were rightfully being asked of her. The anxiety levels in the room were palpable. I met a lady in her mid-80s in the foyer who had to leave the room. We got talking and I was horrified to hear that she's going through this anxiety also when she should be enjoying her life. This is totally unjust and wrong on any humane level. I had detached myself from my situation for a while, as to be honest, it's really affecting my mental health. Meeting this lady, however, was a turning point for me, and I felt I had to speak out on the night to try to give people some hope and maybe reignite the fight I had lost or had been beaten out of me by facing the countless hurdles in our way. I have no regrets. I said what I had to say. Yes, our housing minister wasn't there, so Lisa from MAG had to answer everything homeowners are tasked with coming up with, all the answers and solutions. I ask myself, why did the Housing Minister survive a motion of no confidence only last month by the Donegal County Councillors? Is it any wonder he thinks he doesn't need to attend? Very few, possibly only one councillor attended a meeting that housed families going through one of the county's gravest ever issues. That says a lot, to be honest. 4 years ago this month, I attended a meeting in the same hotel held by MAG. 48 months later, we are, in reality, no further forward in actually getting this solved. This is due to the stark disregard of any urgency to move this forward at a government and civil service level. I can only urge other homeowners to keep the morale, keep questioning, keep voicing their opinions. As always, the homeowners will be the catalyst to ending this totally unjust nightmare. Take care all. That comes in from Chris there. All right, half-time in that World Cup match, Ireland's last match of this World Cup. And it is 0-0 going into the break, or having gone into the break. All right, okay, so we were talking earlier on about the £10 levy that lorry drivers face now from Donegal going into Northern Ireland. For whatever reason it was introduced, but it's not the only burden they have to carry, it seems, according to the Keirloch of the Glentees Municipal District. That's Councillor Michael McClafferty. Thanks for joining us, Michael.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning, listeners. Right,
okay, so you've had contact from truck drivers. What have they been saying to you?
Truck drivers, basically, Greg, have been saying to me over the while. It just caught my attention there when I rang this morning, spoke to Caroline briefly, when John mentioned there about BOSA. But the problem is BOSA in the north or in the UK as such are the equivalent of our RSA out here, if you like, where you get stopped along the road and they can check your car, check your truck, check your bus, whatever. But the problem is, as it seems to be in what BOSA on their locations at the moment, if they find a fault in your lorry and you dispute the fault, they insist there is a fault. For example, the most recent one I'm aware of a truck driver was stopped and they went round the lorry and they couldn't find nothing else, and they said then that they felt one of the wheel nuts was slack, and he says they weren't slack. So to prove the point, a bit of a situation with the argument got up over who was right and who was wrong. So the truck driver went, got his wrench, went right round the nuts, and he says the nuts slack. And the BOSA boy went with his hammer and he tapped the hammer and he says it's slack. He says he found him on the spot. And the problem is, Greg, as you know, if you don't pay or your company doesn't agree to pay the fine, they'll lift the lorry. This is totally unfair, like. And to me, to be quite honest with you, that's over the top regulation. It's over the top, just the abuse of power if somebody's in that position. And they can say to you, to me, it's just like it's a cash for all. To be quite honest with you,
you believe that this is just a money-making exercise? Is that what you're saying?
On occasions like this, I'm not saying the whole thing, Greg, is a money-making exercise, but I'm saying in that occasion and on other occasions, yes. For example, another occasion as well, Donegal truck driver as well was on his way to the boat. He was 15 foot, Greg, from the boat door, to 15 foot from literally driving onto the ramp, and they stopped him and asked to see his tachograph. And he showed them the tachograph anyway. Apparently, he was maybe 15 minutes allegedly over. How much? £1,500 they fined him, Greg. I mean, from 15 foot from the Fleming boat door, they've charged that guy £1,500 of a fine because they found that he was 15 minutes allegedly over the driving time as such. Now, anybody knows the driving lorries, in particular, Arctics in particular, or even smaller, but the Arctics in particular, because they're the main lorries all through Ireland, through Europe, driving, hauling their products and such, more or less anyway. The timelines are tight. You can get caught in traffic. Anything can happen. It's very difficult. And the question has to be asked, Greg, to be fair, of both of these boys, to be fair. No, just give the Irish boys a break. Give the truck drivers a break, regardless where they're from. I think it's very unfair, and I need to be quite honest. With just two examples, Greg, I think it's very, very unfair. And I do feel just the powers went to their head, to be quite honest with you.
Obviously, you know, there's various ministers in the Dublin government that could have a say on this, and in fact there are people. There's people elected in Northern Ireland that could be speaking out on this as well. The truck drivers, and unless I've missed it, don't get me wrong, I would hold my hands up if I had. The truck drivers don't seem to be getting any support in relation to this. And you heard from John, and he's an organiser. If he wants to organise a protest, I'm sure he could do it quite successfully. Is this because really how many Dublin-based, Galway-based, Cork-based, Louth-based, or the counties I'm talking of, those lorry drivers probably don't have to go through the north per se. They might, but they might have to pay it when they get to Britain. I don't know. But anyway, my point being is no one's backing these guys. No one in Dublin saying, look, hey, this is not in the spirit of something or other. Do you know what I mean? They seem to be left on their own to campaign on this.
But this is the problem. That's what we're saying to Caroline in the morning. This is the problem. This is going back to what, 2013 that's come on, but I clearly remember ourselves, 2014, February 14. I recall that day, Christy Gallagher and them and John and others like that tried to get a protest going that time, organised all the contacted all the officials, everything else. It didn't take off. Whatever they were doing themselves, they did not get the support of the government. I believe it was Valentine's Day 2014. I'm nearly sure it was. Stand to be correct, but I'm pretty sure it was. It was a Sunday. We were all out in the Swally Drive, I believe it was at the time, a meeting out there to Christy Gallagher there at Lifford. Most of us see us lorry in the road there, orange and white Volvo hauling the sand blocks and so on. And the likes of John McLaughlin and various other hauliers at the time that all come together as they do from time to time. But they didn't get the support of the government at that time when they were challenging that time the 10-euro levy. And the problem was that time was rightly highlighted that time to Christie. And what's just going to be passed on, no more than John McLaughlin highlighting this morning, as obviously going into the thousands. This again's all going to knock on. I know it's a European thing, Greg, to be fair, and it's not just, we're not isolated alone here in our own island. But the problem is, the government need to give a hand here to the boys that are struggling. It is not easy in the truck world or the bus world or the taxi world. And they are not getting the support that they need. Yeah, all right. You talk to anyone in those industries, and it seems the system is set up against them to make it difficult to. They're regulated out of it as if their vital role is not recognised, but as if efforts are made to actually discourage them from being in the business for whatever reason. Okay, Councillor Michael McClafferty, Cahirlock of Glentees Municipal District, thank you for your time this morning. Just to a few comments here. I was speaking to a few business people in Donegal town, and I asked them if those transient visitors in motorhomes and motorcycles were good for business in the town. The general answer was that they bring very little revenue as they have most of their provisions with them. Motorhome parking at the pier should not be allowed. It is a blight on the picturesque beauty of Donegal Bay. Do you agree? Greg, in relation to camper vans parking in Donegal town, just wish that someone would open a proper park. There used to be a park out the Killybegs Road and also one at the Claw Chapel, but it only had a few spaces for a few vans. It's a lovely clean spot. As the owner of a camper van, I have to say I feel very unwelcome in Donegal town and other towns because the van does take up 2 spaces to park. That being said, I was parked behind or trying to park beside a Land Rover on Friday, and it took up 2 parking spaces, the size of the bloody thing. But anyway, we asked to leave Glenveigh one time because of this. I'm quite happy to pay for my parking, and I do always use parks, but even to go for a day anywhere, camper vans are not made welcome. We do bring business to everywhere we go, pubs, restaurants. Those vans that abuse the disabled spot should get a fine, but it's only a few. We just need a lot more parks. We don't deserve the bad publicity we get, as with everything. There are always just a few bad apples. Indeed, and that's what I was talking about. There was this strategy investigated by the council with a view to getting the balance right, to see the benefit to the economy, to make space available, to not block up roads that are for local access and all that kind of stuff. Somewhere in all of it, we need to find a solution. It's not beyond us. And of course, I don't think anyone suggested all camper van owners are responsible. But I do know there is this notion that they don't bring anything to the local economy. I don't believe that to be true, but that is something that's put out there quite a bit. A caller says the speed limits are exactly the same. It's all a money racket. Are they, though? Speed limits, we need them, don't we? Just to let you know, by the way, and I'll remind you just as we're signing off, that Michaela Clark is in this week for John Breslin around the Northwest. All the usual great music and features and interviews and what have you. But Michaela's in the hot seat coming up after the news at 12. So stay tuned for that, as you always do, but today as well. Regarding Father Pat McGarvey, this came in on Friday.
We first met Father McGarvey in Creasla on the day that changed so many lives forever. So many people were there, volunteers helping to move rubble, to the guards, the fire service and search and rescue. And we are grateful beyond words for the work they all did that day. There was a man who walked between people offering help, offering guidance and support, Father Pat McGarvey. And to be honest, I didn't know he was a priest until he unzipped his coat and I seen his collar. He stood with us right through that day. He directed us in how the process of waiting while the search services searched for our missing. He prepared us for what the next few hours lay ahead and prepared us for what we were going to see. Father Pat gave us the strength to remain dignified in the eyes of people looking on and especially in the eyes of the media. That day, he was a pillar of strength for myself and my family. Nothing was a problem. In the end, he took it upon himself to bless our loved ones whose life ended on that terrible day. I just hope he knows how much he is appreciated. Okay, it's a very nice comment there. I noticed in the newspapers today, the latest government fear is artificial intelligence. They fear that it could be weaponised to spread fake news in the run-up to the elections. And it is something we all are going to have to keep an eye on. I hope I have enough time to read this before the end of the show. It is something we're all going to have to keep an eye on. You know, we do claim to think for ourselves and be free, but we have to source your information from many different places and make sure it is accurate and not just some nonsense that's being spread to you. But anyway, the government is deeply concerned about the impact artificial intelligence could have on the spread of disinformation during election campaigns. Housing Minister Darragh O'Brien, who's already been mentioned today, who is also responsible for electoral reform, wrote to the newly established Electoral Commission setting out his fears over the capacity of AI to create and spread fake news online at a scale never seen before. Mr. O'Brien warned that without strong guardrails regulating the rise of AI, democratic debate will be undermined and skewed by data-driven virtual ball. Now, this is a bit obvious and a bit easy. It's not a criticism. But you know what's good for democratic debate? Coming on the radio and talking about billion-dollar schemes. I mean, you could argue not doing so kind of does undermine democratic debate. But anyway, I didn't say that, did I? I don't believe it to be true. Okay. Anyway, we're going to talk about that in more detail tomorrow because it is, despite how it's being framed, it is something we all want to be aware of, isn't it? Heading into particularly election cycles, we want to make sure the information we get is accurate. Last comment of the day. Hi, Greg. Is there a charge on UK lorries travelling into the Republic of Ireland? No, there isn't, you see. And that is where John McLaughlin was saying it is unfair. There isn't a charge. And there's no plans to do so either. And it is not very fair. It would be goodwill maybe to waive the charge in the other direction, seeing as it's not coming back the way. All right, that's where we have to leave it on the show today. Thanks to Carla and Orr, who researched and produced the show as always. Thanks to Niamh as well, working tirelessly on the programme. Stay tuned, as I mentioned earlier. Michaela's on the way around the Northwest. But for me, Greg Hughes, enjoy the rest of your Monday.
Attention, all home and business owners. Are you